Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Monday. Today is ReelTok episode 133, a special episode today because while we are missing George and Cam, I believe George's at a bachelor party somewhere. I don't know. I think it might just be in New York, but it's for one of his buddies' weddings. And Cam, we settled the contract disputes last week, but we had some T's and some I's that need to be crossed and dotted. So we still got some work to do there, but we do have a guest this week. It's been a long while, I feel like, since we've had a guest on an episode. So
yeah, it's been a while.
Jack Knightley, welcome to the pod. First time
Thanks
guest.
very much.
Excited to have you on here. I know Seth was the one who kind of introduced you to me, but really excited to have you on here today to talk Adolescence. We don't really have any movie reviews this week because Alto Nights, Snow White, Magazine Dreams.
Talk about Snow White.
Yeah, all kind of stinkers. We don't really care to watch those and talk about those. So if you were expecting, I'll probably eventually see Alto Nights, but I haven't heard anything really positive about it. Snow White, maybe randomly one day. But there have been it's been a huge week for trailers. So there's a lot we're going to talk about for trailers and movie news. But we'll go ahead and get into this thing. So shout out to our executive producers as always. We have Stefan Johnson, Alex Kephart, and Cody Whitney. Thank you for all that you do for the pod. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to be doing this each and every week. But yeah, we have a fun episode today. With that, we'll go ahead and get into how we've been doing, what we've been watching, and we'll start with our guest Jack, of course. So Jack, what have you been up to? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself and tell us what you've been watching lately.
So I'm Jack Knightley. So I've basically been making social media content for quite a few years and sort of moved a little bit into talking about film stuff. I've got a film channel as well as my main stuff, which is kind of skits and commentaries and things like that, but I've always kind of shown an interest in film, and yeah, it's great to be here to kind of talk on a podcast about film related stuff. What I've been watching recently, so I always like to have a show that you can kind of have on in the evening if you've not got much to watch or you just finish a new season of the show. Yeah, so for me, I kind of wanted to go nostalgic, so I've been watching The Simpsons from the very start. I don't know if I'll do like all 36 seasons, but that's
crazy. Yeah, because there's so many. I didn't realize we were still doing them. It's crazy.
But yeah, that's just a nice thing to kind of have on in the background. Film wise, I haven't been watching too much because I actually study film at university. So I've kind of got a little bit of work going on, things I need to watch for classes and stuff like that. But hoping to get back into kind of just exploring new films soon once I've got all the work done. But yeah.
Nice. Interesting fact for you, Tyler. Jack was the one who made me download Letterboxd, if you didn't know.
Wow.
Crazy. Because I think I remember like speaking to you like 3 years ago at that point, and I think that was like the time when I was getting into film. And I think that you started like a film account then as well. Obviously, you're kind of more comedy orientated for the most part. And I think you made me watch Heat.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's the first one, which is good one because like I think Michael Mann is like the fucking the man now. Some might say. While I'm watching, I mean this week's been obviously I was away last week. I was in Paris, which was nice. Jack, I went to that. I went to like a cinema bookshop on the last day. I can't remember what it's called. Cool. Really nice. I really enjoyed that. Obviously I was away last week. I went to Paris, which was really nice. Caught like a horrible like cold flu thing, I assume, from the airport because it tends to happen. So I've been in bed most of this week. I've watched a good number of things this week. Obviously Adolescence, which we'll speak about, will kind of be the main review of the episode. Obviously we all, spoiler, really liked it. I watched The Electric State, which amazing. Shout out the Russo brothers, man. Need more shit from those guys.
I'm surprised you even watched it.
Do you know what it was? I was like, I was really ill, and everyone was like, it's so bad, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna watch it because I need to see how bad it is, because I need to continue my tirade of just making them out to be the worst people in Hollywood, which they arguably are at this point. It's awful. Like it's. I know you guys reviewed it last week, but it is like genuinely catastrophically bad to the point where I actually think, and this is saying a lot, that I think it's one of the worst things Netflix have ever put out. Which again is saying a grand deal because Netflix put out fucking a lot of shit. It was so bad. Hated it. Millie Bobby Brown is listen. Shout out my boy George Carmi, right? I know he likes to back Millie Bobby Brown. I get it. I was also at the point where I was like, we need to get in some good shit. she's choosing a project, and I'm not sure she's very good anyway, to be honest.
Are we sure she's choosing her projects?
Well, yeah, Netflix is choosing the projects, I guess. But she doesn't even watch films, though. Like, the point is that, you know, she's not even into films in the first place. And you can tell. That shit's just bad. I got into some Agnes Varda work this week. I don't know if you two have seen much. I haven't. Been like my, I guess, blind spot, along with some other things. I watched Cleo from 5 to 7. Jack, have you seen that? I think you'd really like it.
Yeah, it's like a classic. It's just one of those groundwork films that just, you see all the style in modern stuff. Yeah.
I think it was like when I got back from Paris, I was like, let me watch some, you know, Paris-based films. That was really, really cool. It's like French New Wave. Really, really enjoyed that. Le Bon here? I don't know. I loved it, whatever that was. It's like a Midsummer in the way it kind of like juxtaposes, you know, like a really like fairy tale, beautiful, flowery setting with just horribleness, but it does it better because Midsummer is mid, as I like to say. Watched How Green Was My Valley, so getting into like John Ford recently. That's like obviously the classic. I think it beat Citizen Kane back in like 1941 or whatever. Really, really enjoyed that actually. Me and Tyler will be reviewing Silence of the Lambs. Watch that today. Hot take. It's great. Other than that, I didn't really watch much last week. I watched Doctor Strangelove because I don't know when I spoke to you last, Tyler. I did that Kubrick archive thing. Pretty cool. Really enjoyed that. And then I rewatched 2 Scorsese films. I rewatched Killers of the Flower Moon. Amazing. Love it. And then I also rewatched Goodfellas because, yeah, it's Goodfellas. And I'm watching Attack on Titan right now as well. Me and Anna started watching it.
Yeah, I was wondering, how far have you guys gotten?
Well, she got ill because I made her ill. Shout out. But we did like, so I've seen the first season. I watched it last year, I think it was, or the year before. But I just never continued because I think life got in the way. And I find it hard with shows sometimes to carry on. But we're like midway through season 1. It's really good. Like, it's weird because I was always not anti-anime in a sense of like, I just refused to watch it. But I love like, you know, Miyazaki's work and Spirited Away and whatever. But I would just never go and watch the shows. But Attack on Titan's like, it's really fucking good. So yeah, go through that. That's kind of it for me this week. I'm still fucking trying to get better as such now. Still feeling a bit shit, but you know, it's what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I've been sick this week. I'm like struggling to get through this, just coughing a ton and stuffy. So it's been no fun. Finally, my turn to be sick. So, yeah, I've watched like nothing this week. I watched Adolescence.
We're washed, you know. I was going through our letterbox. Like, we're fully washed at the minute. It's crazy.
We are. Like, I had a strong start to the year, like January, and then February looks pretty strong in my diary. It was like January, the first half of February, and then I just fell off a cliff. Just have not been watching a ton. But yeah, all I watched this week is Adolescence, which we'll obviously talk about on the pod here, and then Silence of the Lambs, which we're going to review for our Friday Patreon episode. And then I relogged Magazine Dreams because that movie's finally released, which is crazy because it's been like 2 years and 2 months since I saw it back at Sundance. But yeah, that movie is in theaters. It's just like not a movie anyone's worth seeing, especially like just Jonathan Majors, like the worst dude ever, and it's like, I don't know. That whole case is so bizarre because he was like found not guilty, and then all of a sudden, like last week, like there's like quotes dropping where it's I did that. I did it. You know, it was like reminded me like O.J. Simpson stuff, where it's like the court found him not guilty, then all of a sudden he's just like out there in public, be like, yeah, you know, strangled her and did everything. It's like
crazy. These PR teams are doing like nothing. Michael B. Jordan's coming out like left, right, and center and saying,
yeah, you know, Michael B. Jordan's a loser. He's like supporting him fully, but yeah, it's annoying. But yeah, Maggie, I mean, if you want to see the movie, it's literally just it is just Taxi Driver rehashed once again, which is a movie that's just rehashed a billion times at this point. It's more accurately the music video Stan by Eminem. Like, it's just Jonathan Majors is a bodybuilder who's like idolizes this like really famous bodybuilder and like writes him letters every week, and obviously the guy's never writing him back, and Jonathan Majors' big idea is like to get big and strong enough to compete up against him, so then he'll finally be friends with him and talk to him, and then obviously it takes a dark turn. But yeah, kind of crazy movie with Jonathan Majors going full roid rage mode to like release when he's like an actual abuser. So bold move by Searchlight. We'll see if it pays off for him. I really haven't seen like anyone logging it or talking about it. So
I haven't seen anything.
Seems successful, but I've seen some people interviewing Jonathan Majors for the movie, like some people within the industry. So that's just like an interesting choice that, or some people are making to do that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, even before the allegations came out, I still thought it was like a very just mid movie that just like is a complete rehash of everything you've already seen before. So don't really recommend anyone go see it. But yeah, I didn't go out and see Snow White. Haven't even seen the original Snow White in like, I don't know, 20 years at this point. So I need to rewatch that before going into, because I do like Rachel Zegler, so I'll support and see. But that's not going to be something I'm going to go out and see in theaters. And then Alto Nights also just seems like the pinnacle of like a streaming movie to throw on. It's going to be just like a 2.5 or 3 star at best. So not really rushing out to see that one either. But yeah, it's really all I've been watching other than Adolescence. So yeah, kind of washed. The Studio comes out this week, which is another TV show. I guess I've also watched the Severance, so I got caught up and finished that. But we will be doing our Severance finale, or like Severance season 2 review on next week's ReelTok episodes. So this week's gonna be Adolescence, next week's Severance. So I guess TV's been a little bigger lately, which is rare for me. But I'm gonna watch the Studio though, just because I feel like
is that the Seth Rogen one that's coming out? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg wrote it and stars like a ton of Hollywood staples. So yeah, that one looks like a whole lot of fun. So that starts coming out this week on Apple. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My week, I've just been sick and dealing with that. Yesterday, Riley and I went to go get some pictures taken for like wedding invites and stuff. And then we went to Korean barbecue, which was delicious because Korean barbecue is always awesome. Ate way too much and just got stuffed. College basketball has obviously been taking up a ton of my time too. It's March Madness right now. I recorded all the games last night while I was gone and then waited till I got home and watched them all back. So I was like, I fully avoided my phone for the entire night, just like not even look at text or anything because I'm like, I can't get spoiled for any of this. But unfortunately, Wisconsin lost. So sad. Cam's team moves on. Purdue's going on. So lucky Cam.
Shout out the Boilers.
Yeah, but my team lost, unfortunately. It was because like multiple games go on at once. So I recorded every game, which there was only like 4 at this point that I missed. So I like had 4 going. But the problem is every single game is going on at the same time, and they all have the score ticker in the top right corner of what the other scores are. So like you can't just fast forward through everything like one at a time through commercials, because like then you fast forward through one that's like, oh shit, well this scoreboard's like 5 minutes ahead of the game. So it was like a harmony symphony that I had to be playing to like make sure all these games were lined up. But yeah, sad Wisconsin lost. They came back at the very end and had a chance to win it at the very end, but the refs low key were kind of on their side, so I didn't really feel that bummed that they ended up losing anyways, because like their comeback in the first place is kind of like, I was like, I don't really think they deserve this right now. It seems like they're getting a lot of lucky breaks, but oh well. Obviously would have loved them to win, so sad, but I'll still keep watching March Madness even though they're out. But go Purdue. Good luck, Cam. But yeah, let's get into
into Adolescence, Tyler.
Go ahead.
I wanted to confront Jack a sec because
oh boy,
I know. So Jack is someone. So if you don't follow him, what's your letterbox, Jack? Is it Jack Knightley?
I think it's just Jack Knightley. Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a look at his letterbox yet, Tyler, but he is a man of very, very hot takes in certain areas, right?
Oh yeah.
With films that we love, Tyler. So I just want to go through some right now, just Jack, and just get some reactions from you. Apocalypse Now at 1.5.
Yeah. I've watched, because there's 3 cuts of the film, isn't there? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I prefer the middle one, the final cut, which is like the 3-hour one, I think it is.
Because I've tried watching all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I've only finished one of the cuts, which was the one that I then put the rating in for, because I don't think it's really fair. People say I watched half of this film and then they still give it a review and you're inflating ratings and stuff. But I think for me, it's just the style didn't work. I don't know if you've seen Agira Wrath of God. It's like a very similar kind of progression film, but that works a lot better for me. And there's some films that just, they don't stick for me. I mean, Ford Coppola, that took a couple watches with The Godfather, especially the first 2 for me to really appreciate them. I have, and I did like that actually.
That's so surprising to me that you like You didn't like Apocalypse Now. It took you a while to get to Godfather, but you liked Megalopolis because
It might have just been the experience in the cinema because
yeah,
you see all the memes about it and it kind of creates like a memorable watch experience. I think if I watched it now on my own with my projector, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty crap.
It is like, I mean, me and Tyler liked Megalopolis, but it is very much a film that's kind of built on its moments. Because if you kind of look at it as this almost cohesive package, there's kind of nothing there, but there's so many great moments. Like I think when we reviewed Tyler and Megalopolis, we were discussing like, the visual sequence when we kind of get the split screen stuff and the dissolve just all in one package. It's just crazy. Perhaps the most egregious Jack that I can see on it is Scooby-Doo 2 at 1.
Yeah, that was when my friends tried to make me watch it. It's kind of one of those things where I really want to watch like an interesting film. I'm like, maybe we should watch this, and it's like, oh, you're just going to put on something slow and boring. So then they just counter that with like, why don't we watch Scooby-Doo, produced or directed by James Gunn, I think.
No, it's written by James Gunn.
Yeah, written.
James Gunn's involved in that shit.
Yeah, that's just an example of a terrible film watching experience where I've been basically made to watch it.
Fair. All right.
Maybe it's a good kids film. I don't know.
No, it's a good adult film. Let's calm down, mate.
Okay.
Early stage James Gunn, he's not to be messed with. Scooby-Doo is great stuff, and I think I haven't seen this since college, but there's a night where me and my friends were pretty inebriated and watched Super with Dwight Schrute, Rainn Wilson as like this that was like one of the most memorable fun experiences ever. I just remember we were all just like tanked and we watched that and we were like, this is incredible. So early stages James Gunn, don't sleep on him.
Spider-Man Homecoming, hate. Me and Tyler very much respect that. We are also Spider-Man Homecoming haters.
I thought you were gonna say you loved it.
No. Everything Everywhere at Once. I guess that's not like a big one, but you give that a 2. I really liked it. I don't really see that as much of a surprise, and that's one of them ways where it's like, it's a bit all over the place.
For me, it's just style that kind of takes me out of stuff more than narrative. It's just, for me, it's too much. Like I respect the production of it and how well it's made. I just can't. I can't follow it. It's the same with a lot of animated stuff as well. I know I was talking about The Simpsons, but I really do struggle with animation as a form completely to kind of.
Tyler. Tyler hates animation.
I wouldn't say I hate it. That sounds
Tyler hates animation. Like this has been a thing for such a long time. It's like, I mean, you kind of struggle with it in the past, haven't you? In terms of like the animated styles and stuff.
Yeah,
it's not surprising. After Sun, Jack. Obviously, so we have the thing called ReelTok Collection, which all of us give like when we give a 5-star. We all love After Sun. It's like probably one of, if not our favorite films of the decade, at least in the top. Like 5-10 range, that kind of area. Yeah, After Sun.
I think I was. See, a lot of the times when a film is like everyone's telling you to watch it, and then you start it, and I immediately want to hate it. And maybe that was one of those examples where like I just went in with a really mean mindset. But I think the stuff with like the video recorder reminded me of like the kind of cheap like throws at sentimentality that you get in a lot of like TV shows, or even like it did remind me a bit of like the handheld camera in like Mr. Bean's Holiday, which is I don't know why it's not really a related film at all, but I know it just didn't work for me again. The start, I think I do need to watch it again because I respect it for what it is. A lot of these films I low rate, I do actually respect the films, and I know I need to try them again, but it's just doesn't work a lot of the time.
Do you watch Severance?
Yeah, I love Severance.
Did you see the finale?
I did.
Okay, well, without spoiling, because we're going to talk about next week, but what did you think about the camcorder usage in that? You said a camcorder usage is a little corny. It was a camcorder usage in Severance. I thought it was pretty creatively done in that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I think the way, obviously, I don't really want to give too much away, but that had to be like a plot point for the way the character talks and stuff. I thought that was really, really cool. I think it's more when it's like, in the trope where it's like the dead wife and he's watching old videos of her like in front of the camera and like a bit like Afterlife, which I liked the first series of. I thought the rest of it just.
Have you seen Afterlife, Tyler?
No, I've seen After Earth. Ass. And I'm a big M Night guy, but ass.
Afterlife was the series that Ricky Gervais did with Netflix. Was it Netflix?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was like one where he's grieving. I think Ricky Gervais is a man who, like, over the years, I've just become more and more annoyed with in general. Yeah. So it was like when we had the progression of Afterlife with the first season, I thought it was really, really good. And then after that, I was like, oh, it's Ricky Gervais again doing his thing. Do you know what I mean?
Is he even like a creative anymore? Or is he just like a full-time like political commentator at this point?
It's that weird blend, isn't it? Where like he's been adopted by certain people into places. I don't really know.
No, definitely. Final thing before we go to Adolescence, because I think we did this with Kian. Do you remember Kian, Tyler?
Dude, that was so long ago, man. I was gonna
say, shout out Kian if you listen.
I was gonna say whenever I get whenever it's only me and you, Seth, we have to get a guest. I always get ganged up on the 2-to-1 ratio of the Europeans to the Americans. You always grab a European fella for the pod.
This is true. Jack, I wanted to ask you like a quick one, just to kind of get a gauge of where you're at the moment in terms of like taste wise. What would you say are kind of like who are some of your like sort of favorite directors ever? Would you say, just so I can get a kind of view to it?
Immediately, Thomas Vinterberg, just for Another Round, The Hunt, and Festen, or The Celebration.
Yeah,
it's just telling drama in such like a real way that's also extremely captivating, entertaining, and not being like stylistically over the top. I mean, Festen or like The Celebration is a completely stylistic film with like the way it was made with the Dogma 95 movement, but it's just telling drama that's both real but extremely captivating. I think Danish cinema especially does that for me. I've been really liking I rewatched the Pusher trilogy. Refn is a director I really like.
So good.
At least like some of them haven't connected with me. I think only Gods Forgive I didn't quite follow.
I appreciate when we did the Ryan Gosling one, I think. I thought it was okay. It's one of them where it's like tricky to I think it needs like multiple watches for me because it's very, very out there in terms of its stylistic approach. It's very like muted as well, which I quite like in some films. But it's a tough one. Nicholas Revan's actually a really, really interesting filmmaker because I like him for the most part, but then there's some remade like that Bronson with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
I haven't seen that yet.
No, I didn't like that.
I just appreciate a director who's like has a style and they're willing to push it as far as they can, even if it's more of an emphasis than the narrative sometimes. It's like if you have an intent to do something and they really push it, I can't not really respect it if it's like well done, especially if it's like this is a stylistic film. Like I think Drive is so kind of like polarizing because it can be thrown in the same sort of zone as a lot of like the film bro popular movies, but I think it is quite stylistically challenging compared to other popular films. But that's kind of why I love it, because it's taking a very like, you know, used narrative like the whole Michael Mann crime LA setting and then doing something stylistically that's like almost pushing the Michael Mann style even further in his own way. That's why I quite liked it.
Yeah, for film bro movies, I feel like as you like start going on your journey getting into film, it's like once you start getting past film bro movies, you start like looking at movies that are like film bro, quote unquote, and you're kind of like, oh, those movies are so overrated and kind of stink. And then you like kind of come back around to where you're like, they're actually some of these are like actual masterpieces. So, you know, like a Blind of my so cheese. So,
like,
some of them, there's so many movies that I wrote off because I'm like, oh, like only like film bros would like love this movie. I'm trying to not be a film bro basic dude. And like later you come around, you're like, I feel like the biggest thing, and I think Tarantino, the dude is a loser, but I see so many people on film Twitter say like his movies are awful. And I'm like, no, that's such a early take. Like you'll come back around. Just give it some time.
It's one of those things where it's like, I remember when I was growing up, Tarantino, I still don't like love him. I hate the guy, but I don't love him as a filmmaker. I mean, like I grew up and I remember like loving Pulp Fiction, which was like, you know, one of the early ones. And then, you know, as I started like watching more stuff, you know, I was like, Pulp Fiction. People have that on like posters on their wall. That shit's like made for like 15-year-olds. And then I watched it again. Obviously, still remember liking it, but I just like, probably won't watch it again because like, you know, you grow up with that and you grow out of it sort of thing.
Yeah,
there's that like 6 months ago, and I was like, man, this shit's really fucking good. Like, it's like let's not like it is really fucking good. It's like I almost feel like I know you're not like a big Fincher guy, Jack. I mean, none of us are actually big Fincher guys here.
No, I'm not.
But there are select films, like when I went back and watched Zodiac, I was like, it's actually really fucking good. And it happens a lot with films like that, where it's like they have this kind of film bro thing where you go full circle with it.
That's interesting though, when you talk to someone that's in the film bro stage and they ask you, oh, what's your favorite Nolan? What's your favorite Fincher or Tarantino? For me, it goes like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then for Fincher it would be Zodiac, and then for Nolan it's Dunkirk. But you say that to a film bro, and it's crazy how it's not Pulp Fiction, Interstellar, or like Fight Club or Seven. But you remember when you were that person, and you're like, you'll see it come round.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting, by the way. Your favorite Nolan's Dunkirk. I mean, it's my
that's the British bias for you two, though. Just like Ratatouille being the favorite Pixar. It's like something about it. It's just, even though it's French, but it's like something about the Brits. Just love them.
I do actually think that like certain films like a Dunkirk, like a 1917. I don't know, 1917 is a funny one because the whole thing is kind of like a gimmick almost, but one that I think reflects well on me. I do think there is a thing which they have more of a holding over people from the UK, like just in general. I think when you watch it,
I love 1917. It's a good transition movie to talk about as we're getting into another one.
I was gonna say.
But last thing, I have a Zack Snyder's pulled up. Like I guess everyone probably knew this except me, but Dawn of the Dead, I did not know it was written by James Gunn. I always thought like which I thought like James Gunn taking over the DCU is like two guys who had never known or like talked to each other that are going to be like bitter enemies. I didn't realize like
Zack Snyder's directed movie
written by James Gunn.
Film as well.
And I'm sure other people knew that, but I guess they clearly had a working relationship. Before, so I guess I'm an idiot there, but
I really like that film as well. It's really good.
But yeah, like you mentioned 1917, which was a one taker. So we'll get into Adolescence, which is four one takers, but Adolescence, a 4-episode miniseries on Netflix that dropped really quietly, I feel like, because it came out March 13th, so 10 days ago. First weekend, it started getting the word on the street. This is really just kind of a show that organically grew. It just got initial reviews, got really big, and I feel like around like Sunday, so like after 2 days when it came out, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like started to see a lot more people logging it, talking about it. It really kind of just spread like a wildfire. So really kind of impressive in today's day and age where like, especially Netflix is no stranger to it either, where it's just like you just try and just throw as much money as possible at something budget wise as well as marketing wise and hope it takes off. And then you're like scratching your head, like, why didn't this succeed? Whereas Adolescence is like, that's why like I tweeted, I'm like, man, Netflix like original is just like it's so over and we're so back and forth. And that's why like so many people when they see something like The Electric State are so quick to be like, God, Netflix is all just trash, garbage, like throwing it away. I'm like, they still do have so much great stuff they put out. It's just you got to take the ass with the cherries. But Adolescence 2025 British crime drama miniseries from Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham, directed by Philip Barantini. In an English town, police break down the door of a family home and arrest Jamie Miller, a 13-year-old boy, on suspicion of murder of a classmate, Katie Leonard. Jamie is held at the police station for questioning and then remanded in custody at Secure Training Center. Then investigations at Jamie's school, questioning by a forensic psychologist, reveal that Jamie is deeply disturbed by school bullying via social media centered on incel subculture. Stephen Graham is the only character of note that I was familiar with. Erin Doherty looks like familiar, but I can't put my finger on anything she's been in. But no one else in this show I'd seen before. Well, notably the kid played by Jamie Miller, Owen Cooper. First time ever acting, not classically trained whatsoever. Just his first time performing. Absolutely wild. Delivers just an absolutely astonishing performance. But then we mentioned the one take. So each of these 4 episodes they range from like 45 minutes to like an hour, 5 minutes long. So the whole series is probably like 4 hours long, but every episode is one take, no cuts. But unlike 1917 or really almost anything that's one taker, except, some of other Stephen Graham's work. This is true one take. There is actually no cuts. These are fully one take, no interruptions. Some really cool behind the scenes footage you see, like especially at the end of episode 2, like the drone footage taken off, going from handheld to a drone. But yeah, very impressive. They said like episode 3, I think, took them 4 takes, and the take you watch in the actual episode is take 3. So just wild because this kid has never acted in anything before, and all of a sudden he's like being told to have an hour-long show where, especially like episode 3 is like he's like in the whole thing, whereas like episode 1 and 2. It's kind of like, yeah, you can see how this could all be one take and like not risk too many people messing up because like so many people come in and out that they each kind of have to remember a couple lines and that's about it. But then episode 3 is like all him. Episode 4 is like all Stephen Graham. So it's just very impressive. But obviously, Stephen Graham's no stranger to this style before. So I think the best way to go through it would be go like episode by episode as we kind of talk deeper about it. But I'll just start with like overall thoughts on the limited series itself. It's just like a high level, no spoiler, your review, your takeaway, your thoughts. And then once we kind of go through that, we'll dive in and just talk episode by episode, because I think that's probably the easiest way to go about it. So we'll start with Jack. Jack, what were your thoughts on Adolescence?
I thought it was really, really good. I think one of the main things I appreciate about it is the fact that it does what it needs to do and doesn't try and hang on any longer. I think the way the narrative comes around or kind of leaves more questions is something that's really important. And I think, like you were saying about Netflix and budgets, it can be a great place for important shows to be, because everyone has Netflix. People talk about it. You don't need to, download a new streaming service. It's somewhere where it can, if it's the right program like this that is important, it can just grow massively because of just the fact that everyone has it. And I think what I liked the most was that the one take didn't really feel like a gimmick for very long. Like, you kind of think about it a bit in the first episode, but I think the way the narrative moves and the story it's trying to tell, the one take was actually kind of enhancing what the show was trying to do, more than like, oh, look, this is a one take show just for the sake of being a one take. I kind of forgot about the fact that there weren't cuts very, very quickly. And I think it reminded me in The Bear, there's a few episodes which are one takes. And I think it works well in a show for me, a lot more than a film where you have to kind of think about it a lot more.
It's tricky as well, because I think the one shot thing now, like when it was first used, it was seen as this like, massive feat. And the thing is, when you utilize it in a certain way, it can come across as like really gimmicky. But like Philip Baratini, he obviously did it in Boiling Point. I know you watched Boiling Point, Jack. Did you watch Boiling Point, Tyler? Well, he does it in that aspect. Well, he did it in the film first of all, and I think the way he kind of utilized it is so efficient in the way that you just forget it's kind of there, and it just fluidly moves with the show or film in Boiling Point's case. But I was saying, Jack, I love this. I think that it's a funny one with Adolescence, because it's one of the main reasons it's also capturing so much attention is the controversy behind it, which is ridiculous. And I think the way in which it works is a lot of people went into it, and a lot of criticism I saw online related to the show specifically is that it's people were expecting like a whodunit kind of thing. Again, not to give it away, but people expecting like this, like a classic British crime drama, which always comes like this one where it kind of throws a plot twist at you or a dramatic U-turn or whatever you want, and people almost expect that. But this isn't what it's about. This is, I said it in my review, it's like an amalgamation of real life cases, of so many different happenings and things that have happened, and just kind of put into one, where there's kind of no question of guilt or something like that, but it's more going into the mindset and the upbringing and stuff. And I think with social media's day and age, and people who have huge names and profiles just spouting horribleness directed towards women, and kind of contriving the young sort of male brain into again, obviously what the show covers a lot of, which are not going to spoilers, but it's it's incel culture. That's kind of the whole thing, and really looking at that from a perspective differently than I've seen before, and directly mentioning certain people, and just having a project that's kind of so out there. And like Jack said, it's grounded, and like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't use dramatic turns and twists. It just has this one narrative structure, throughout the 4 episodes, where it kind of has a different focus throughout each one. 3 and 4 being kind of the I guess the biggest emotional moments as well. What's the kid's name again? Let me have a look.
Owen
Jamie.
No,
Owen Cooper's the actor. Jamie Miller is the character.
He was like amazing. I can't imagine like the actual total task of doing that, one take as your first kind of role, especially when you're not, I guess, practically adjusted. I think that Stephen Graham, I've said it time and time again, I think he's like one of the best working today, and he has been for like 20 years now. I think he's amazing, and I think everyone in this did really well. It's quite fun actually with this show as well, because every moment there's like a new actor that's like, oh, it's that guy. If you watch like British TV especially, there's so many just dotted around. But yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go into more of it when we discuss episode by episode, but I really liked it, and it's definitely one of my I think one of the best shows I've seen in Netflix have produced, in a very, very long time, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved it as well, and I'm excited to talk about it episode by episode. I think so. It's like 4 episodes, and it's, like I said, about 4 hours long. But I know it's not possible for everyone, but I would recommend, if you can, like, watch it back to back to back to back. Because I think I got so much out of it by watching it just like one full, just like truck through it. Just because every episode takes you on such a journey. Because each one, since it is a continuous take, is like minute for minute through the lives of what's going on. Each of them tackle this case and what's going on in their lives from such different angles. Like episode 1's kind of setting up what exactly happened. Then episode 2 is like the police investigation. Episode 3 is like the psychiatric investigation. Episode 4 is kind of the aftermath. And I think it was a really great and interesting experience to watch them all 4 back to back to back. Interesting that this one from Jack Thorne, the creator of the show, took off like wildfire, because I guess he released literally 2 weeks before this another 4-episode miniseries on Netflix talking about like real life stuff. It's called Toxic Town. It stars Rory Kinnear, who I will never forget is just like the dude from Black Mirror with the pig, and the dude from Men and so it's like he's just scarred in my brain as that. But this is sounds like a very similar type of thing, where it's about a real life story of like a British town that it was it's like the British Aaron Brockovich, the Toxic Town. So it sounds like he's just like trying to take these 4-episode miniseries and tackle stuff. But that one was also produced by Charlie Brooker, who's obviously the Black Mirror guy. So like you'd think that one, if anything, would get more push. But but this came out literally 2 weeks before this did. So Jack Thorne's been busy in early 2025. But I loved Adolescence. Stephen Graham, rightfully so, is getting so much praise. But yeah, like you already touched on, Owen Cooper deserves just as much praise, if not more, just because he does some insane stuff, like truly unbelievable stuff, especially in episode 3. So let's go into episode by episode. So episode 1, let's see, I have a little synopsis here, trying to see what else. So yeah, I guess we'll throw spoilers on, because we're at this point going to talk we're just going to talk freely about the show. So episode 1 starts with the police raiding the home of the Miller family. You have father Eddie, mother Amanda, daughter Lisa, and 13-year-old Jamie. They arrest Jamie on suspicion of murder and take him into the nearby police station. Tearful Jamie professes his innocence as he is processed and taken to a detention cell while his family arrive at the station. Eddie agrees to be Jamie's appropriate adult and be with them while he's searched and questioned. They kind of clash and have an intense interview process. It's revealed that Jamie made several sexually explicit comments about female models on social media. He's then questioned about Katie Leonard, the girl in the school that we then find out is the one who got murdered. And then his like lawyer shows up, which what's the term that was used for the lawyer there? It's like
solicitor, was it?
I don't know. It's like a term that I don't think we use in America, but it's like I just assumed it was like his lawyer guy who came up. It was like the term I hadn't heard, but then they kind of go through the CCTV footage of what happened to Katie in the car park. And then the interview terminates there. Jamie and Eddie kind of cry together. Eddie, clearly unsettled by what he has just saw. So first episode, basically you find out what happens. They raid the home. You find out the girl gets murdered, and the police investigate Jamie as the guy who they think did it. And it's kind of just like a back and forth battle of trying to break him, and Jamie seemingly holds strong, but then some cracks start to happen. And then obviously the big nail in the coffin is the video that's
was that episode 1? That was episode 1, wasn't it?
That was episode 1, yep.
Which,
it's a weird one, because so many people are like, I don't know, there's like idiots who are like, oh, like I wish they would have like spelled out like if he was guilty or innocent or not, or like tell us what happened. It's like they literally show you in episode 1 like a video of him doing it. So like I don't know where this like question of guilt is, but
and it's like when people were expecting like a who had done it, what were they expected to do it then? Like, actually, it was this guy. He had a mask of Jamie's face on. Do you know what I mean? It's like what the fuck are you talking about? This is kind of the opening. I mean, opening episode was just amazing in the way that it kind of showcases almost the family's breakdown and the kind of immediate response. Because how else would you respond to that? Your kid essentially being arrested for murder, 13-year-old son, and it's like we see the difference in the mindset of Stephen Graham's character, and kind of being that fatherhoodly figure in that state, and then understanding how to communicate with your son at certain points, asking him if he did it. Obviously his mind is immediately saying no, and it's just that that initial confusion, and that's that really scene that's almost hard to watch him, which I think is in episode 1 was the undressing scene, when Stephen Graham's character is like, arguing against it. This whole thing is, and you're almost put in the father dad's mindset throughout the whole hour, and it's just kind of heartbreaking. But almost in his mind is like, well, he hasn't done it, so we'll get out eventually. And it being at that stage as well. But yeah, no, I think specifically the first episode was a really, really great introduction. And I like it how, as soon as the episode starts, we're right there and then with him being taken away, leaving us questioning, why, what has he done, etc. And almost being this kind of ripped fuse from it. Jack, what did you think of the first episode?
I think what it does really well in the first episode, this is again like enhanced by the one take, is you're seeing the kid go through all these different things, and you're in your mind, just like the dad, you're like, there's no way a kid has done this. Like, they're going through all these checks and all these things just over a child. And by the end of that episode, you feel cheated in the same way like the dad does, because you're trusting that there's no way he's done this, because you're seeing the process happen. And I think that makes it more kind of dramatic at the end when it is revealed, like, oh, he did that. And it kind of enhances the idea. It's like, you just don't expect that from like a kid, and that these things can actually happen.
Yeah, it's like the whole reason as to why they use a 13-year-old boy in this, which has happened in the past in the UK. There's several examples of it, but the whole reason is that it's that whole thing of it could be anyone. When you have this kind of influence online, and obviously we see these moments where he's kind of commented on those pictures, and obviously we see more of this and hear more of this in this episode, but it is that whole, it could happen to anyone, the whole brainwashing provided approach, and using a 13-year-old boy to do that, which we as people never kind of expect it to happen, but it shows the consequences of these certain cultures online, so to speak.
Yeah, I think like Jack was saying, the one take really benefits this episode. I mean, it benefits them all, but this one specifically just because, again, you live minute through minute through these people's lives. So if you think about where you are at the first minute of the episode, you're abruptly, the family's being woken up by police busting down their door and throwing their son in handcuffs, to all the way to the very end of the episode. A father sees a video of his son killing someone and being arrested, and they're in jail, and he's processed, and it's like, just in that 60 minutes, just their entire world, and for like their initial family, but generations of that family, like their kids and their kids are going to, like, this is going to impact them. Like, this is like their whole world and globe collapses in just the 60 minutes. And it's just so bizarre how it all unfolds. And it's, yeah, like exactly like you said, Jack, you feel cheated because Jamie, like, he holds up well to the interrogation. You're like, this seems crazy that he would do this. Like, it was probably not him. Like, he seems like he has an alibi, and it seems like it's not him. And then, that's why it's like, being like an investigator has got to be such a challenging job, because like, how do you just like sit on, the golden goose of like knowing you have them dead to rights, and it's just like, you don't reveal that until the right moment. But yeah, and then Stephen Graham just so expertly portrays just a father seeing his worldview completely crumble at the idea that his son committed just such a grisly murder. As stone cold as it was, you see in the video, it's just basically, what like stabbed 7 times or something, and it's just disturbing. And yeah, it's a perfect episode to just like really hook you and get you sunk into what you're about to experience. But yeah, I think it's a masterful way to start. I think, again, you see right away that the kid, Owen Cooper, is like just unbelievable at, again, because like he sells you on, like, you'd be like, there's reasonable doubt in my mind the entire time, like, if this was him or not. I think it's also interesting and smart to it's almost like our discussion on The Brutalist, which I didn't really like in The Brutalist, how they showed that act being happening, and then so at the very end you're like, weren't able to question it, where in this one I think it was almost more smart to show it, because like I think you would lose some of the brilliance of the show if it was like you were mentioning, Seth, like if it was supposed to be like a whodunit, like, did he do it, did he not, and it's more about like a lawyer trying to prove someone's innocence that's wrongfully accused, as opposed to like, nope, clearly did this, let's unpack what led to this. I think it just made it much more impactful sentiment. So anything else we want to touch on the first episode before we dive into episode 2?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that, like, when something like that gets shown to someone, no one really knows how you're supposed to react to it. I think that makes it more disturbing. Is like, that's where like the amazing acting comes in from someone like Stephen Graham, like the amount of time it takes him to process how he should respond through what he says, through how he moves his body. It makes it even more disturbing, because you don't know how anyone is supposed to respond to something like that. And the fact that it can happen and that it does happen just kind of enhances that. And that's just where the great performances come in, I think.
Yeah.
It's interpreting that.
Yeah, you have like the end of the moment, like the end of the sequence when we're first showing the video, and it kind of pans towards Stephen Graham's character. What's his name in the show? I can't even remember.
Eddie, I think it is.
Eddie, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It kind of pans towards his face, and you get that immediate. Because almost like when you're watching shows like this, regardless of who done it or not, you almost don't expect that sort of evidence to be brought to light within a first episode. You know, that's kind of thing you were said to the end, where it's like a whole, not like a whodunit approach, but you know, almost a guilt approach, where it's like, is guilty, who's not? Maybe he is guilty, but there's no concrete evidence, and they kind of really fighting to get that and to yield that. So at this point, it becomes like a, you know, almost a question of moral conscience of the legal system, where it's like how much evidence we have here, and you know, we're not really going further with it, and the lawyers trying to do that side. So I think it was a really great and almost brave way to end episode 1 as well, because I think a lot of people, if they're expecting who done it, if they saw like evidence of, you know, they watched the episode and they saw evidence straight away of him actually committing it himself, would be well, he did it, and they'll be watching the rest. You know what I mean? Because they're almost expecting this twist and turn thriller or whatever. So I think that's a really like courageous and bold way to end the episode for sure. Really great.
Yeah, and this kind of jumps ahead like something you learn in like episode 4, but just in regards to like when he like watches the video for the first time, it's like just shows how Stephen Graham is so focused on being a father to his son, as opposed to like them as human beings as a parent. Because like how he kind of mentions he like wishes his wife was the one who's in there, because she would have been able to handle it better of like being there for Jamie. Whereas like when you think about it logically, it's like you think like, you know, as like quote unquote like man of the house, like you would never want to make your like wife watch a grisly murder video and like see that kind of disturbing stuff of your son, but like he's purely just thinking in the thoughts of like he wants to be there for his son and love and support his son. So it's like, I wish you were there because you would have been so much better than me at it. So it's just such an interesting take on that. But that then leads us to episode 2, which 3 days after the murder, Bascom and Frank visit Jamie's secondary school to speak to Jamie and Katie's classmates and see if they can find the murder weapon, which they have not been able to find at this point. Bascom's son, Adam, is also a student at the school. The officers find the teachers very overwhelmed and struggling to handle unruly students. Across the school, news of the murder and Jamie's involvement are widespread among the students. Katie's friend Jade is especially upset by the murder and refuses to answer any of the officers' questions. She later assaults Jamie's friend Ryan, accusing him of getting Katie killed. When Bascom and Frank check on Ryan at the infirmary, he is initially cooperative, but soon turns evasive and unwilling to answer questions, leaving the room when the murder weapon is mentioned. Adam approaches his father and explains how certain emojis are used by teenagers to communicate on Instagram. He reveals that Katie used this form of encoded language to accuse Jamie of being an incel, in effect leading to a cyberbullying campaign that was led against him. Bascom and Frank are troubled by the revelation. As they attempt to question Ryan again, he then flees through the window and Bascom chases him out of the school. When Ryan is caught, he reveals the knife Jamie used to stab Katie was his. Ryan is arrested for conspiracy as the school day ends. Bascom picks up Adam to take him home while Eddie visits the site of Katie's murder to leave flowers in remembrance. So a lot happens in episode 2. All takes place at the school where they're trying to just investigate, talk to all the students about what they know, as well as at the same time find what this murder weapon is. And then throughout this episode, you kind of get these revelations of Jamie being accused of being an incel. A lot of kids on school or online are cyberbullying him, calling him an incel. So that you kind of see this divide between maybe some like more quote unquote popular girls, and then Jamie and some of his friends that are kind of on the outs and getting bullied. And then you have his friend who obviously seemed to be somewhat of an accomplice in the murder by having the murder weapon and then hiding the murder weapon and runs away from cops at the end. So a lot to unpack here. Where do you guys want to start?
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a lot in this episode, but I think some of the main points for me is that it first of all shows how out of depth people are. I think the police, and we hear politicians speak about it all the time, speak about the kind of young culture and generational culture on social media, in that it's kind of hard to decipher certain things and how easy it is for kids to have access to people and ideologies that we often speak about. There's like a really, I mentioned this when I reviewed it on Letterboxd, there's a really powerful moment in this in line when one of the detectives is speaking outside. Well, they're both speaking. I think she says something like, how the perpetrator is always on the front and always gets the most attention. And it kind of relates back to real life, and how often do we kind of see violence against against women specifically, or against anyone, where kind of the victim is plastered and the perpetrator is plastered and the victim kind of becomes this afterthought almost, and that's kind of the problem with journalism, very much so, which obviously this show touched on as well. But I think this episode was really good in that they get kind of sort of put in this environment with school kids who and they don't really know how to kind of communicate with them or to understand their levels and their language. This is something we see time and time again. But I think it was a good idea approaching it in school and having them speak to them and just being incredibly out of their depth with children, almost. But yeah, I really like this episode for sure.
Mm-hmm. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I think one of the things I saw that was quite interesting is the discourse around British schools. I don't know if it was the same for you, Seth, but it wasn't too far off how schools can be, like the kind of
Definitely
how it can be a very miserable place. Teachers can be shouting, they're definitely overworked, underpaid, students are unmanageable. Like, it's quite accurate. I think I saw like a TikTok of this woman whose boyfriend is Canadian, and he was shocked just by the way the school functioned. And like, to us, it can be like that. And I think there is a commentary in there in how schools can be like a breeding ground for just bad stuff. And I think especially with like the generational divide, it's normal for there to be like these things that generations don't understand from each other. But when you have tech as well and like the digital age, it's like even further, and there's even more places that things can be kind of misunderstood or not, things you can't understand, especially. And if it's the young generation who naturally like to hold off, if they also have access to the internet in a way where they've grown up understanding it better than most people, like they were born with it, it creates like a really heavy divide, which was kind of shown through like the messaging of the emojis and stuff like that. I think it's pointing out on that as much as violence.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like when you have these schools, and it's a constant point. I mean, education here isn't, it's up and down, but I think when you have schools that are completely with no control, and almost the kids almost lack this parental guidance a lot of the time, there is kind of a way in which the schools they are like Jack said, they're breeding ground almost. And if they hear something from another kid or hear something on social media, it's so easy to get talking when there is no guidance from an older person. I think it's so hard sometimes in English schools for teachers to actually command that, because I think a lot of schools are overcrowded, in my opinion, in terms of class culture and how many people are in a single class. And I think it's very, very hard for people who are teachers overworked in the first place to actually take control. And again, like going into what I said earlier, it's that misunderstanding of the culture we're living in, I think, from people who in our curricular system, if they're getting taught several things at a time, whatever it might be, how is a teacher meant to understand all that goes on within that children's life to give them more education on life and not just an education on cells and shit, pointless shit that we never use? And I think that's almost, like Jack said, a commentary on the schooling system. Definitely a great point. I agree. Sure.
Yeah, obviously school systems here, I'm sure, have some fundamental differences, but a lot of stuff at the same time is just more. I guess I'd say I'll generalize to Western culture because I can't speak to other cultures I'm less familiar with. But I think a lot of the generalizations are pretty common across the board of overcrowded schools, kids. This happened 3 days after the murder. Like, no one was shocked about Jamie being arrested or the murder. Like, it was like. This episode's 3 days after the murder. I think if the episode was 1 day after the murder, it'd be the same way, where immediately kids are going to know everything, like the technology and social media, like everyone talks, they know everything. So like stuff spreads like wildfire. Kids in school schools these days are almost more just like babysitting centers as opposed to schools in a lot of instances, because they just overcrowd and pack kids in, and teachers are overworked and underpaid. And, they just throw on an episode of a History Channel show or something, be like, all right, this is just what we'll do today because this is easy, and I have a billion papers I still have to grade, and because I have to do all these 1,000 things, and I have 70 kids in my class. So it's a school. I don't know, it's interesting. It's like weird to think about, like having kids one day and like what the school system will be like. And because I know like my high school is like a big, like their big thing that they pumped up numbers was like, oh, we like our graduation rate's so high and getting people into college. It's like, your graduation is so high because you like graduate kids who like should not be graduated. Like, it's it's because you want to say like, yeah, we graduate, like everyone graduates here. We're such a great school. It's like, well, you just kind of just pass everyone. Like, what is this actually helping?
It's the same here a lot. I think, not to go on too much about the school thing, but it's almost to the point where it's like, I think a lot of schools now are kind of, the success is based on test results and not based on teaching kids life lessons and how to live. And I know that's a point that's made time and time again, but it is so true. And in that, it makes it harder for kids to have, a real guidance in schools when all they're taught is to pass a test, pass an exam or whatever. That's the difficulty, isn't it? Definitely.
And you see that in this episode. Like, you see these kids are just completely disregarding any power authority in terms of their teachers. They have no respect for their teachers. You see some teachers, they talk to the police, you kind of see that they're completely stressed and overworked. And then because these kids don't have respect for the teachers, they don't have respect for the police officers either that are coming in trying to question them. So yeah, it's just kind of starts to show how something like this can be possible, where kids are, very cliquey, very cruel, very exposed to the internet and online culture way more than any generation ever before them. They just have access to so much more information at a point when their brains are not ready to take in all that information. And kids are just mean, man. And it's like,
true.
Obviously bullying has been a thing since the history of man, like since man was invented. But, if you're dealing with bullying, like, bullying's never okay. But I mean, when our parents were growing up, bullying was like, you get the very worst, you're getting like shoved in a locker, like beat up, like terrible stuff happening, but like it's kind of confined to like within school for the most part.
Yeah.
But now it's like at home on social media, like you can never escape it. Like it's just completely,
it's really psychological.
Yeah, you're completely absorbed by it, and it feels like the entire world's against you at a point when your brain just can't process that that's just like not the case, or that things will change and that things can be forgotten and will get better. So it's really shows that well in here. And then I don't know, I'll take it at face value for what all these emojis mean, because I'm an unk at this point. I'm too old. I'm 27. True. I don't know. I didn't know any of these different color hearts mean different color things. Like I don't know, man. I don't think that much. I'm sending emojis.
I don't even know that either.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I'm sure like it's a different world. Kids are like,
or is it just like,
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff we don't know about emojis, but I don't know if they all. I don't know if like a purple, what was it? It was like a red heart means you love someone. A purple heart means like you're like horny or something. It was like there's different color hearts for everything. I was like, oh, and then the copper, I was like, well, I'm glad I only send your mom like red hearts, I guess, based on what you're telling me. But yeah, his kid kind of comes in, but then you kind of see also the fractured relationships that parents and kids can have. Is like, because he's like, oh, that's the most my kids talk to me in a long time. So this show in general is just a great commentary on parents, because anytime a tragedy happens, whether it's like something like this or a school shooting or anything that a kid does that you just think a kid would never do, it's people are quick to be like, blame the parents, but then also you kind of think like, how much fault can the parents be at? And it's like, then the show kind of shows like, actually like there is a lot of reasons to blame the parents. So it's like, it's just like an interesting, the show just gives you so much to think about, which is what I love about it so much.
Yeah. It's difficult as well, because it's like, on the parental thing, there's the conversations in the show about like, moments when Stephen Graham's character's talking about how, or whoever said it was just the main kid was just in the room on its own. It's like it's an interesting conversation around parent. I'm not a parent, so I could be wrong, but it's an interesting conversation, because it's like, of course, parental guidance is needed for kids to learn moral values and what's good and what isn't, and understanding and go against prejudice and discrimination and whatever. And people will always learn from the parents, which is that's just the case if they have a close bond with them. But it's like, where's the line between over-parenting and too little parenting? It's like, the commanding of kids' phones to understand what they're doing at all point. Where's the line drawn on that to where it becomes overly strict and too much? Because like you can do well and good in display, and parents shouldn't let the kids have that. For example, if I was trying to search something when I was 15 and my mom like put a lock on my phone or some shit like that, I would find a way around it. Kids aren't stupid, you know what I mean? It's like but then it's like people could construe that as my mom being overly strict or something, or whatever it might be in that example. So it's like, how much parenting is too much? Because kids can find anything. And I mentioned this in the day and age of Elon Musk's X or Twitter, as I like to call it. You see everything. You know, there's little to any real censorship, and that's kind of the point. So kids can see everything. So it's like, how much can a parent really do, even if they have got that bond? If that makes sense. I think the show does a really good way of tackling that as well.
Yeah, especially with Snapchat too, where stuff like even as a parent you can't even see because it's like, you know, it's set and it disappears. So it's like, what even happens there? So yeah, it's a lot to think about because as a parent, it's like you could be overprotective to the point where like your kid's going to resent you, and like you'll go too far to the point where your intended consequences are going to be the opposite of what you're hoping. But then you could be like the cool parent that the kid loves, but at the same time you have no guidance for them, and then you just let the world take them. So it's like, it's just tough, and the show gives you so much to think about. So we'll be interested to hear Cam's thoughts on the show because he's obviously, I mean, his kids are way younger, but you know, I feel like if I had kids, the show would be like even a lot more real for me, and it'd be kind of like terrifying me, honestly. Because I'd be like,
I agree.
Damn, I'm scared to raise kids at this point. But yeah, so episode 2 is kind of just basically you learn about the incel stuff. Is this one? I don't know. Maybe it's episode 3. I guess whether they talk about episode 3 or episode 2, we'll get in episode 3 anyways, because they talk about a lot of the same stuff in his interview about the incel stuff and where he's kind of learning that from, and the Tate brothers. But episode 3, this is 7 months now after the murder. Psychologist Brianny Ariston meets with Jamie at a youth detention facility to prepare for a pre-trial report on his mental health. Jamie has been recently involved in a violent altercation with another inmate and is visibly aggravated by the fact that, unlike him, Ryan spends the pre-trial period at home. Brianny makes it clear that Jamie that her only goal is to evaluate his understanding of the circumstances surrounding the case, not the case itself. Jamie, however, engages in a tenuously gripped game of one-upsmanship, which, due to his emotional immaturity, becomes a chaotic interaction and brings his alleged crime, his possible motivations, and the subculture underlying them to the forefront of the discussion. Upon being pressed for an explanation, he provides a full chronology of the events. After another classmate had spread Katie's topless photo around the school, Jamie asked Katie out, figuring she would be weak and thus more likely to accept. She promptly rebuffed him and shortly thereafter wrote the derisive Instagram comments about him mentioned in episode 2, calling him an incel, making fun of him, basically after denying him when he asked her out. Throughout the whole interview, Jamie's mood fluctuates wildly between friendly, paranoid, aggressive, and threatening. This includes several furious outbursts, an accidental confession, displays of learned entitlement, and pent-up anger that leaves the investigator severely shaken, leading her to declare the session with Jamie as her last. As Jamie is escorted out, he demands to know if she likes him. She refused to answer, which further agitates Jamie. And then she finally cries to herself before leaving. So a lot is unveiled in this episode, which is just a masterclass of acting from Owen Cooper, where he really is like just like a true bipolar. Like you just see the switch in him going from like completely compliant to completely just disturbed, and just incredible of his ability to just change emotions so much like that as such a young kid, and carry this whole scene. Like it's just him and this psychiatrist or psychologist the whole time back and forth. Very dialogue heavy episode where we learn a ton about Jamie and how life is for him being held while they're awaiting trial. But this is where you kind of find out a lot more about him being like kind of following like the Tate brothers and the manosphere and being kind of like ingrained in that culture. His friend's kind of a part of it as well. And you kind of find out what led him and Katie to interact. And it was really like Katie had this topless photo spread around the school. He asked her out. She turned him down. And then she started making fun of him on social media, which kind of led to this kind of just group think cyberbullying campaign against Jamie, which then led him to become aggressive and obviously stab and kill her. So yeah, let's get into this one. A lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's almost like a chess match for an hour or whatever between the two, where this is kind of where we almost have the full understanding, I guess, of his radicalization to this point, through these ideologies as you've just spoken about in terms of I had someone comment on my review about this because I mentioned on there like dangerously masculine ideologies, and that's not me saying. Someone commented like, "Oh, being masculine isn't dangerous." That's not me saying it's. I mean, people on Letterboxd have selective reading skills; they don't really comprehend. Whatever. It's my point is that it's like over. It's overly masculine. Being masculine isn't a negative thing at all. I think masculinity is perfectly fine, but I think it's when we get into the toxic masculinity of ideologies that we see above, and kind of it stems not to be, you know, being yourself and whatever, but the hatred towards women. And Jamie, we see utilize kind of these tactics almost in a way of intimidation, in a way of trying to intimidate, trying to like terrify, trying to patronize to a certain extent. You know, we get into the conversation about him asking, you know, if he likes her, and them speaking about kind of attraction. That's kind of where, you know, like Tyler said, it leads into God, I'm so bad with names. What was the girl's name who died? Was it Katie?
Katie, yep.
Yeah, kind of leads into the conversation about them and the attraction between them, and kind of follows the classic story. You know, we've heard, I mean, not to get into real life cases and stuff, but we've heard many times about real life cases that have been due to rejection, which kind of breeds the incel mind and that kind of culture online. There's been hundreds of cases, especially in America and in the US in the past 30-40 years. But yeah, no, I think this episode is really good in that, like Tyler said, it's like an acting masterclass between the two, and it really uncovers so much. And the shot I actually love most is the final sequence, in that when the episode is about to end, it kind of just sits with her, and she's basically in tears, to the point of blushing of how much that conversation was. And we have to understand at this point, that's a 13-year-old child that's kind of been brainwashed to the point of speaking like that and stuff. And it's almost further than, when we were 13, when we didn't have access to these materials or didn't know about these people spreading this stuff because it wasn't as highly accessible. It just, no one would have ever speak like that. And it's been kind of brought down to him. And like he says, him and his mates and the people around him have, really bought into these ideologies, especially now it's been, Katie kind of rejecting him and whatever. And I think this episode is really fantastic. And it just really shows, how in deep he is with, and I said this in my review, I don't think it's necessarily a subculture anymore. I think it's gone past subculture now as actually, it's not a tiny thing anymore. It's becoming to the point where it is, more dangerous and so accessible online. I think this episode is, really brilliant, really good.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think this episode is interesting because I think the one after follows in the fact that it's less about the movement of the events, but more about understanding the characters, especially Jamie, and like why he thinks the way he does. It kind of focuses more on the themes of what it's trying to say. And I think this might be maybe where people who were expecting turns and twists and changes would have maybe decided that they didn't like the direction anymore, because it really is just focusing on why he's doing the things he does and why he thinks the way he does. And I think it's kind of like, it's toxic masculinity, but like fragile masculinity that makes it scarier. It's this idea that like, especially like young boys who aren't even old enough to really understand themselves yet are the ones that are getting manipulated by these ideas. And you're really seeing why they can be manipulated like that. It's not just like throwing out these mad ideas and people are just, these young boys are just believing it. It shows you the progression of how they become so passionate about what they're thinking and why they believe it so much. And it's people that are young and don't understand themselves enough, like Jamie, that can be dangerous.
Because like if you have access to so much when you're 13 and you don't have an understanding of sexuality and attraction, because you don't, and ideas, you're so easily manipulated. And the way it's that said culture works a lot of time, it's them thinking no one wants me, I'm not good enough, they only attracted to a certain type of guy or whatever. And it really breeds that. And when you're 13, when I was 13, I wasn't even thinking about this sort of thing. But now, if a kid has a phone, they've got immediate access to that conversation immediately. I definitely agree. Good point.
I think like the problem is, it's like with social media, is there's information for everyone, not for your age demographic. Like when without kind of technology, the sort of things you're interested in are marketed to you, or they're found through what someone your age should be interested in. But if you just go on Instagram or TikTok, you're watching things that people twice your age are watching, or like adults. There's not that kind of, things are obviously targeted, but it's very easy to have one thing target different demographics, and it can be very dangerous that something he's watching is something that adults are also watching. There's that filter's kind of disappeared. It makes it more dangerous.
It's like if we see things like that, which we do, I don't get me wrong, anyone could be manipulated to a certain extent, but it's the molding of the young mind, and it's quite scary to think, how many of the next generation, the generation under us, and well, not under me, I can't remember the word, but whatever. But those are people in that age who are like 13 and whatever now. It's how if it continues to go on, and they continue to have access to stuff like this, and it's a way of which how do we stop it at this point? And it breed, and the amount of people is kind of breeding into it now, because now it's heavier than ever through the use of social media. And again, it's like social media is one of those things where there's always been dangers, but I think now it's just so, like Jack said, accessible to every generation because everyone has phones and stuff at 12, 13 and stuff like that. Whereas we can see, we understand right and wrong and understand which pathways to take and have a moral understanding of, they don't. And when you're 12, 13, it's really, really hard to determine that, I think. And it's almost like, when I was 13, I wasn't worrying about stuff like that. You just weren't. Like, it's not a thing that was even in your mindset. But I think nowadays it is, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because like you can see why obviously young kids would be co-opted into these manosphere, Tristan Tate, Andrew Tate, like cultures. Because it's like when you're a kid, like you're 13, a guy especially, you're like, you're kind of looking at your classmates. You're like, oh, who's whose voice is changing first? Who's getting facial hair first? Who's like being a man sounds like something as like a kid. You're like, yeah, I want to be like manly. I want to be tough, strong. And like everyone's kind of going through different maturity phases at that lifetime. So it's like, you can see how the brain can obviously be so easily corrupted by these like manosphere ideologies of like, oh, be a man, like do all these things, like these things that are considered masculine and manly in order to be more of a man and take back masculinity and be like a stronger person. And it's just clearly like just people are just so manipulative at that age, whether it's for the manosphere, for really any ideology whatsoever. But that's obviously a very prevalent one nowadays with social media, and those videos always go so viral. It's just seeing how it's penetrated this Jamie's mind. And you, again, like, I think Jack said it's like a chess match, or Seth, you might have said it's a chess match throughout the whole episode, where you kind of, again, similar to like the first episode where like you don't know if he's guilty or not, and then it's kind of revealed at the end. It's like in this one, you're like, because at this point, all we know about the incel stuff is like people posting on social media, which like seems like we see it in our day and age too, where like people just get like, when people are called like incels or like made fun of in that way, it's like, obviously some people are, but a lot of people would just get called that as like, it's just because that's like the trendy, like,
it's a very minority.
Right. It's like to rag on someone about. So it's like throughout this whole episode, you're kind of like, maybe you're just being bullied, and maybe this chick's just like a mean girl. Like, you're just like bullied by like a popular girl, which like still could be the case. Cause again, kids are awful, but you kind of realize, you've realized throughout the episode, like, he has these cracks where he's like, oh yeah, this dude's, falling under the tendencies of like being like a woman hater, feeling like he's superior to women. He clearly is just undermining the psychologist the whole time, kind of saying like, clearly thinking he has more power than her, even though she's a professional, even though she's not accused of murder, even though she's probably 20 to 30 years older than him. So it's just, I think it's really fascinating, like, or really cleverly done mirror of episode one, where episode one, you're wondering like, is he guilty or not? Which still people you see that clearly watch the show with their eyes closed. Like at that episode one, they were like, or at the end of this whole series, like, oh, was he guilty or not? He's like, no. In episode one, you go from don't know if he's guilty to 100% he's guilty. Where in this episode, you go from is he an incel? Is he manosphere? Is he like following his ideologies and stuff? To without a doubt, 100% he is by the end of the episode. And at the end of episode one, Stephen Graham is the one who's left shaken and being like, holy shit, how can my kid be this terrible? And then at the end of this episode, the psychologist sitting there being like, holy shit, how can kids be this terrible? So really great mirror episode, which then kind of leads us into episode 4, which for me, I didn't expect this from episode 4. Like, I didn't expect it to jump now to the final episode being, okay, we're over a year after the murder now. Jamie's still waiting trial, but this is like fully centered around the family, which I think was a really clever idea. But again, I just felt like it was like episode 1, it was like getting arrested. Then it was investigation. Then it was like psychologist. And I just expected the natural progression was like, okay, episode 4 is going to be like the court hearing or whatever it's going to be in the final like nail in the coffin. But instead it takes a much more clever approach and gives a 13 months after the murder. The Millers have made attempts to return to normality as Jamie awaits trial. On Eddie's 50th birthday, his van is spray painted by teenagers. What did the spray paint say again?
Nonce. Do you not use the word nonce?
No, I mean I've heard it, but it's not an American term.
Okay, it's very much a British term.
Yeah. But so Eddie plans to take Amanda and Lisa to the cinema later that day to lighten the mood, but they first go to a hardware store to remove the paint from the van. There, Eddie is further distressed by a young employee recognizing him and awkwardly expressing his support for Jamie, clearly similar Manosphere follower. Eddie buys some paint to recoat the van. Outside, he spots the teens who tag the van and angrily threatens them before throwing the can of paint on his van out of anger. On the drive home, Jamie calls and announces his plan to plead guilty. At the house, Eddie and Amanda come to terms with Jamie's upcoming trial, blaming themselves for not paying enough attention to his online radicalization. Eddie visits Jamie's empty bedroom and weeps loudly, wishing he had done better by his son. Very emotional episode. Stephen Graham's like, this is going to be my Emmy-winning episode type performance where he's kind of carrying this. Similar to Jamie in episode 3, like you see Stephen Graham just completely have this snap back and forth between personalities of being strong for his family, trying to return to normalcy while also clearly being just so emotionally distraught and disturbed still and barely hanging on by a thread. His van gets vandalized. He kind of goes and sees how just deep this culture that Jamie got infected with is penetrating into society and how they're all around with his daughter at like a dating age, just how terrifying that can be. And then you get the back half of the episode is really a lot about just them coming to terms with them being parents and like, what could they have done better to prevent this? Is there anything they could have done? How could they have been better parents basically to try and prevent this or try and make this not happen? You kind of have commentary about different generations of, Stephen Graham. He's like, I got beat by my parents. But I didn't do that to Jamie, and we kind of let Jamie be, and here's where he is. Not saying that's advocating for beating, but it's like kind of just like no matter what you do as a parent, it's like these things can happen, but clearly there's more safeguards you could do. So let's dig into this one.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of like goes into, it's not necessarily about because I was with you, Tyler. I didn't expect it to come like this in the last episode. I thought it'd be more like, I saw people complain about this, like how I thought people like a showcase of the trial. In the trial and in the courthouse, whatever. It's more about the toll and the psychological impacts of his actions, on people around him. So you've got I don't know if we mentioned her yet, the victim's like best friend or something as well. She's obviously very psychologically impacted, as you would be. You've got kind of the family, and you've got his mum and dad, who are really, really questioning at this point what could they have done more, which kind of leads into the conversation we were having earlier about overparenting and what's too protective and what isn't. Kind of go into that, and the end is truly heartbreaking. You've got the kind of anguish that comes over them and almost them trying to surpass that. There's a sequence when they're trying to find the right song in the car and trying to almost lift himself up. They're going to cinema and whatever for his birthday and trying to forget about things. And after all this anguish has happened, and Eddie runs into that other guy who almost sees like Owen. Is it Owen? No, that's his name. What's his name? Man, I'm so bad with names today.
Jamie,
that's the one. Sees him as almost like a spearhead, which is part of that movement. When things have happened in the past, there's almost been from a certain subculture, like a congratulatory effort towards that person, like as if they did something well. And obviously, Eddie's like appalled at that, and kind of what happens. When he comes out and he sees the kids, and he's in complete agony and pain, emotional distraught at this point, and then he gets the call that he's gonna plead guilty at this point, and that's kind of truly just that toll almost overcomes them to a certain point where the mum and dad are essentially just questioning everything and the whole upbringing over the past 13 years and what they could have done better, when in reality it's very, very difficult to have done any more than they did, in my opinion. But yeah, I think this was like a really amazing way to end it. I think 3 and 4 back to back were, like Jack said, truly in the way they kind of counteract each other in focuses, and how different they are. I think it was really, really well put together. And the end of this episode was fucking insane on just an acting level alone, and just a dialogue level for sure.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say that this episode, I've seen one of the main complaints is that it's just normal things happening, or that the one take was struggling because you would just be watching them drive to go and get the paint and then come back. And it's like, but I think that's exactly what the episode is. They're just trying to live a normal life. It's like, how do you just
live
exist whilst like that has happened? It's really kind of, it's probably the most like realism episode that you could possibly get, because a lot of the drama is kind of like dissolved, apart from obviously like the outburst he has at the shop, but it's just trying to show as much of just normal living as they can, like when they're laughing in the van and stuff, and just talking about when they were younger and the types of music that his wife used to really like. It's just, it makes it kind of more disturbing because you can just see like the undertones of people trying to like live a normal life and go through it. And I think that's what made it so powerful, especially towards the end with that final scene. It's just like really, really good. Especially with the Teddy as well, like tucking it in. That's the bit that kind of got me, I think.
That was, I've got to mention that was pretty amazing. Because just showing like he almost has this. I mean, as you would, if anything, even though necessarily his actions haven't impacted his son's behavior, but it's like that guilt that he initially feels and that dread, not knowing how long it's going to be, and not knowing what he could have done better, and that kind of overboiling of emotion that they both face. And like you said, that Teddy, when they kind of puts into the amazing scene, really like made me cry. Good bit that scene, actually. That was like really, really great. And I think it's just a perfect. It's difficult because like I know what people mean when it's like, oh, I want to see the trial and stuff, but I think it's the way the show actually is only 4 episodes makes it even more impressive how much they put into it in terms of like thematically, not just approach narratively. But like you have so much here in just a 4-episode place, where I think that the 4 episodes actually ends on the perfect note of, okay, let's take the attention away from specifically the trial at this point, and we know he's guilty. That's not even a question. We understand that at the end, in which he pleads guilty. But let's focus on the actual impacts of the parents, the family in this instance, and briefly see the domino effect of his actions upon people who are within the same mindset, and almost see him as like this is not there, but like a martyr, so to speak. I think this episode is like really fucking great, really, really good.
Yeah, it just is such a unknowable puzzle, because it's like you forget parents and people, like just adults. I mean, we're all adults, but I mean, people, a generation above you is like they're also people going through life for the very first time too. So it's like, how do you prepare for a tragedy like this? How do you raise your kids to prevent this? Whether on the offensive or defensive side, like how do you protect your kids from this happening to them in terms of like being a victim of the violence? How do you protect your kids from being perpetrators of it? And it's like, again, we kind of talked about it a couple of episodes ago, where it's like, as a parent, like clearly he didn't take the approach his parents had with beating him. But they kind of said like, oh, we saw him up late at night, always on his computer, but we didn't really think anything of it. And we'd tell him to go to bed and he would go to bed. So it's like, they kind of tried to be that hands-off parent that seemed like the kind of easygoing parent, and what that kind of caused. Not saying that always happens, but like, it's just, there's risks to really everything and every style of parenting. And it's like, could they have done more? Absolutely. But like, could them doing more prevented this? Who's to know? Like, it's like, sometimes things are just out of your control. But yeah, just a devastating episode. Stephen Graham delivers just an absolute masterclass here. That final scene is so heartbreaking. Just the whole episode where he's just like on the edge of completely snapping is just, it's so impressive. And you're kind of holding your breath the whole time, because you like can tell his fuse is about to blow, and you're just like waiting for it to happen. But then also just like the suburbia too. Like, I don't really know where in the UK this takes place, but it's like just a classic like suburbia town where it's like everyone knows everything, and it's like all the like neighbors know. Like, it's like, I was thinking this episode made me think about just me growing up, and I grew up in suburbia in Minneapolis, and it's like I knew like as a kid like so much stuff going on with people's parents that like there's no reason I should have known, but it's like neighbors just like find out stuff and like talk, and it's like stuff about like, oh, like this couple like is getting divorced because there's cheating, and like, oh, this couple like this is got, it's like, why do like, it's just like suburbia. Like everyone in the neighborhoods just knows everything going on. It's like once some secret comes out, everyone knows, and they're all looking at you funny.
It's like nosy thing, isn't it? It's like when we see the
that one lady across the street.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when he goes outside and he sees that the van has first been sprayed, and he's just asking like all the neighbors, you know, what happened and who was it, and they're like, I don't know, but they're there. And they obviously saw something. It's like that classic nosy approach. I don't know if it says specifically where it's set. I think it's just like north of England somewhere.
I think it might have been Leeds. I'm not sure.
Was it in Leeds? Okay, fair.
Possibly, they might have mentioned it. Not sure.
Okay, fair. Like I think it's like just north of England, and I mean I can attest to it. That's kind of what a lot of places are like, especially like, you know, smaller little independent kind of cul-de-sacs and neighborhoods of certain cities. Like you do get that kind of community, I guess, just like a bunch of nosy people, you know. And I think it really comes across, doesn't it?
It was filmed in South Kirkby, a town in the city of Wakefield in West Yorkshire. South Elmsall, Wakefield in West Yorkshire, and then Sheffield in Yorkshire. So, near Sheffield?
Why was it filmed in Sheffield? What?
I don't know what. So South Elmsall is where the school was.
I have no idea where that is.
It says that. Yeah, it says that's a small town in the city of Wakefield in West Yorkshire. Population 6,000, but Sheffield. I don't know if.
It's made by much of the TV drama made by a Sheffield-based film company. I had no idea about this.
So yeah, these are like all your neighbors. You should know these people.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I don't have much more to say in the series. I think it's a really creatively done, really impressively produced show on topics that need to be explored, very important topics that everyone should be watching, learning, educating themselves on. It's just one of the many things going on in the world today that we all could do better by educating ourselves more about it. But this does it in such a neatly packaged, tight show with great performances. I think it's very easy to watch in the sense that like they do everything so well, but it's hard to watch in the sense that these are very emotionally heavy episodes. But just for like the performances alone and what this accomplishes with the one takes, I think everyone should watch it, especially because it is only 4 episodes. They really do whiz by, and I think a part of that is the pacing that comes from being a one take episode. But yeah, I love this. I adored it. Recommend it to everyone. So hopefully you go out and give Adolescence a chance if you haven't seen it. Anything else you two want to say on the series as a whole?
No, I think you've got to cover everything. I loved it. I think it's one of the best things Netflix have. I can't think of many limited series Netflix have made that I liked more. I'm trying to think.
Queen's Gambit's the only other one for me that
might
be a similar level.
Was Hauntonville?
Beef was good.
Oh, Beef was good. I probably like this more. Beef. Was Hauntonville House Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's probably like the one because I mean, I love fucking Hauntonville House, but
yeah,
I can't think of many. And I think it's like Tyler said. It's funny that Netflix is just one of those things, as any streaming platform, that the only things that are going to be talked about are either the worst of the worst or the best of the best. And luckily for this one, even though the marketing, I hadn't heard much about it previously, the word of mouth has been the biggest thing in terms of getting this out there a little bit more. Like, I was looking at this earlier for Tyler and Jack for that matter. It's not often, right? A lot of people don't log limited series on Letterboxd. Mm-hmm. This has 112k logs for like an English drama. That's quite a lot for a limited series. Like it's a fucking lot, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of shows that it has been like a word of mouth thing, and that it's something it's a topic that we all, have heard about time and time again, and understand. And it's not one that's kind of, I guess, even though it takes place in north of England and it's very culturally specific there, it's one in which wherever you are, you'll have seen examples of it, heard examples of this exact thing and this exact being. It's not location specific in terms of who it affects. But yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think people did a really good job, and I think everyone involved should be really, really proud. I loved it, for sure.
I think it's just a good example that audiences do want things that are going to challenge them. I think Severance being so popular at the same time, and then you have the Netflix movie that we were talking about, I can't remember the name, but it's like
The Electric State.
Yeah, people do want interesting TV and films. Like, the audiences aren't, there just for entertainment. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a good reminder of that when you see like the budget versus success on something like Netflix, which is such a powerhouse. It's it's a good exposure of what people want and, the quality of things that should be prioritized.
Definitely.
It is an odd one because Netflix, I feel like, is so much more successful with their shows. I mean, they have the stinker shows, but like Baby Reindeer last year was great from whatever I've heard. But like all the
Did you watch Baby Reindeer, Jack?
I watched the first episode. I never really.
Once a year, Seth falls in love with the Netflix show.
So did you see the guy who replied to that? And he was like, beef, but it was like the same. The second quarter of every year, or the first quarter of every year. There's a Netflix show that releases I really like. So it was Beef, Baby Reindeer, and now fucking Adolescence. I wonder what it's going to be next year.
Yeah, like Jack says, they come out with shows that like actually like challenge audiences more than just like being just like slop for entertainment. Like all the Mike Flanagan shows are generally loved, like the Haunting Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass are all pretty dense shows. Beef and Baby Reindeer has a lot to sink your teeth into. This and probably many other things I'm forgetting, but it's like, they have stuff there that's like a lot of great stuff. And I do think in general their hit rate on TV is a little higher than movies. Which
I don't know though, because I don't watch. The only shows I tend to watch are these like limited series. Netflix do release a lot of shows, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
That I just haven't seen because I wouldn't.
But they also release a lot of movies. I like posted a TikTok on this. It's like in 2025 alone, they've already released 27 Netflix original movies. It's like 27. How have they? And we've only heard of like Electric State,
crazy,
and that's like it. But like I mean, to be fair, not a lot of them, but there's a good chunk of them that are like more catered for international audiences that just probably would never even be recommended to Western audiences on Netflix. But still, there's still a lot of stuff that's like, the classic only employed by Netflix actors these days, like the Jamie Foxxes of the world that are like just coming out with a random Netflix slop movie every year.
Kevin Hart's,
exactly.
Kevin Hart has been labeled the king of slop now by me in a recent video.
He deserves it.
Every year you'll see 4 films that have just come out on Netflix, and you'll be like, I've never heard of them in my life.
Yeah, his shtick was fun when it first came out. Like I think the first thing I ever remember seeing him was like Ride Along, which I thought was funny when I saw it in theaters.
Just Get Hard with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, that too. But then it's like every time you watch Kevin Hart movie, like, oh, it's just like the same. He's got one.
It's the same thing again and again.
He needs the rock type renaissance where he's going to start like, I'm just going to pair up with a Safdie brother and try and reinvent my image.
Do some random shit. Yeah,
and Scorsese. Yeah, that works too. All right, so that'll do it for Adolescence. So I'll turn off the spoilers tab. Let's get into the rest of the episode here. So we got trailers and movie news. Very dense week for trailers. A lot of stuff. So we're gonna kind of go in order of when like these are going to be releasing in theaters, not really in order of like popularity. But starting with June 6th, the new trailer for John Wick spinoff Ballerina has been released. So I've had mixed opinions on this in terms of, we've kind of talked about John Wick it's not starting to fall. It's fully in the slop train now where it's like they have TV.
It was in the slop train when he got a second film, Tyler. You know the rules.
Well, yeah, according to Cam, yes. But then when the Continental and with this and like the Donnie Yen spinoff movie too, it's like they're clearly, and also John Wick 5 coming out, they're expanding the franchise, what I think might be beyond the grasps of being able to maintain it being strong. But trailer looks better than I was expecting, to be honest. I still don't have a lot of hope for it. Norman Reedus and Ana de Armas, I don't know if they can carry a movie, but I don't know. What do you think about it?
It looks... I'm not really bothered about... John Wick I like. I really like 2 of them, but I'm not like crazy on them. But I think this looks better than expected. I expected this to be like... I mean, it still could be. Granted, we've seen films that have bad trailers and are good, and good trailers that are bad. But it doesn't look bad. Like, it looks pretty decent, in my opinion, which is a feat in itself. But it's like, do I care about it? Not really. I don't know. I'm just not... Like, I think John Wick 4 was like that perfect, send-off, kind of. And when we reviewed it, I remember we said, it was like, they're going to make loads of stuff, and now they made loads of stuff. Jack, have you seen the John Wick 4 movies? Oh, John Wick films.
I've only seen the first one, and for me it was a fine action film, but I had no reason to really want to watch any more of them over other stuff. But I thought it was like impressive for what I was expecting. Like, it was a solid.
Yeah.
But like, if I didn't want to watch the others, I'm not really then interested in a spin-off. I don't know. The fact that it's connected to a universe or this whole kind of like expanding a franchise is just kind of getting boring now, I think.
Yeah, it makes it so overwhelming as well. Like there's so much to watch, and it's like, I don't know, it just makes it confusing when they've got so much. It's like, I mean, I haven't seen The Walking Dead, but isn't there like 10? There's like the Walking Dead show, which is like 12 seasons or something. Then there's like 5 spin-off shows as well that I've never met a single human being that's watched ever, right? And it's
Andrew's visuals probably.
Oh yeah, Andrew's probably watched more, but there's so many, and he gets to the point where I'm like, man, Lord of the Rings will be like this. By the way, it already kind of is. Middle Earth will be in this capacity soon. We're already in Slopverse because of the Hobbit films and Rings of Power, but now we've got the Hunt for Gollum and whatever else they're making.
War for the Rohirrim.
Oh fuck me, man!
You're already there.
Yeah, we are there. But yeah, I don't know, man. It looks fine, but it's not. It looks cool, but it's not something I'm like majorly excited about. Just because not to be like that guy who wants original shit, but I like original shit sometimes. Whatever.
Where do we land on Ana de Armas as an actress? She good?
Okay. I don't know. Like, I think. Let me see a filmography. I think like good. I like her in
Knives Out's probably my favorite.
I like her in Not Much. I'll be honest. I like her in Knives Out. She's good in Knives Out. I think Blonde was an interesting role. I don't think she was particularly cast well, but I think she, even though I hate the film, I think she did pretty good with
for sure. What
she had. I think she was pretty good. That's kind of it. Like, I think actually looking at her filmography, it's really not deep. There's not much there anyway. But I think Knives Out and probably like Blade Runner, in which she's not in it much at all.
Right. It's like Blade Runner and No Time to Die. She's like very much just supporting. So it's really like Knives Out and Blonde are the only two. Well, I mean, like Ghosted she carries, but like, Ghosted is
for me, it's still like, even though I really like her in Knives Out, I think I'm still like, jury's still out, if I'm honest. I've seen her in a few films I've just thought were fucking awful. Like Knock Knock, shot Eli Roth's Knock Knock with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Awful. So bad. I think jury's still out for me. I'm not really too sure. I'm not like sold yet, to be honest.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I liked her in No Time to Die as like the action hero that I think is gonna be very similar to like her character in this, but the amount we got of her in No Time to Die doing that, I don't know if like it was enough there for me to be like, yeah, she could carry a 2-hour movie of just this. So
yeah,
we'll see. But I know it's quite an ensemble cast, so I don't know. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It's not directed by the John Wick guy, right? I think he's just producing it. So
who's it directed by? That's a good point. Let me have a look.
I don't know. What's the title?
Ballerina.
Well, if you search Ballerina, Letterboxd still sucks. You're not going to find it. It's search like From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
Yeah, because there's that film 2022.
Yeah, directed by Len Wiseman, who has also directed Load.
You are right, Tyler. I'm not gonna lie. IMDb is kind of superior with this sort of thing.
Yeah, Underworld Evolution, Underworld, Live Free or Die Hard, and Total Recall.
Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
That's a really, really bad film. I didn't like
so that. Not looking promising, but we'll see. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But we also got a first trailer and poster for Celine Song's Materialists, an R-rated romance movie starring Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, and Dakota Johnson in theaters on June 13th. What do we think of this one?
I really like Past Lives. So
Jack, do you see Past Lives?
Yeah, I went to a Q&A with the director in London, which was like the Picture House were hosting the Sundance in line with the festival itself. So that was quite cool. I really like that film, but this just does look overly Hollywoodized, if that's the word. I don't know. It doesn't look like the personal kind of almost autobiographical film that Past Lives was. And the trailer just felt like it released the whole narrative in the trailer, which is never really a great sign.
Any trailer now, it's really annoying.
Yeah,
it's like I think it looks like cool, and it's not like my thing. I think you got 3 very good looking people, and Chris Evans might be in a real film again, which is always something to celebrate about. But at the same time, I don't know. But it's Celine Song is currently 1 for 1 for me, so I'm not at this point going to say, I won't watch it because I will, and it's because I think we're kind of at the line where a general audience isn't, where a general audience will look at the actors and go, wow, cool. We do as well. But it's like we follow directors a lot of the time, and that's kind of what we're interested in, and writers. and whatever and things like that. And I think Celine Song is now 1 for 1 for me, and I think it looks cool. Like, I think calling out for like an original rom-com as well is quite interesting because we don't really get them anymore. Quality rom-coms like we did in like 90s and early to mid 2000s and stuff. Also, Jack, I did see that you liked the new Indiana Jones film as well.
Crazy.
Me? Well, I liked it.
No, you didn't. You like the new Bridget Jones film. Jesus Christ.
Indiana Jones.
A little different. A little bit different.
Yeah, no, I did like that, to be fair.
Is that like a rom-com? Is it like the original ones? Is it like the same?
Yeah.
Kind of...
So I actually ended up seeing it twice. I saw it with my family, and then I had like an extra long day before a flight back from Copenhagen, so we watched it in an empty cinema in Denmark. I think it's like, as a rom-com goes, it's just a very well made one. I think if you go in the mindset expecting what it's trying to do, I think there's not really much to fault with the new Bridget Jones. There's an effort to be artful with it. I think there's some nice shots. I think it's trying to find like a sentimentality which comes across really well. So I do respect the film for being able to do that.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be like the renaissance of the rom-com, with this.
Hopefully.
Yeah, because I mean, we haven't had many good ones in ages. I think if Celine Song's directing it, I'm going to watch it and be pretty excited anyway.
Yeah,
hopefully it's good.
Yeah,
definitely.
I really like the trailer. I'm excited for this. It looks like something that's up my alley that I'll really like. Obviously Chris Evans in a real movie again, but low-key Pedro Pascal in a real movie again. He's kind of a franchise.
Gladiator 2 was a real film, Tyler.
Yeah, franchise merchant still. And
True, slot fest.
Gladiator 2, I liked Gladiator 2, but it's kind of just the more I think about it, the less I like it. But maybe it's just that's unfair.
Yeah, but Pedro Pascal's not. I mean, he is.
But no, I mean he's like only in sequels and franchises and TV shows. The only original thing I can remember him being in recently is like The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
He was in
where he's just playing like Pedro Pascal, basically.
He was in Driveway Dolls as
terrible
penis collector. That was his title.
Terrible, sure.
Which was a really, really bad film. Shout out Ethan Coen, but that was a really fucking bad film.
No, Coens are kind of washed when they're separated. They need to reunite.
I know. Man. Well, no, just let fucking Joel go off and do his own shit. Because
is he the better one?
No, but you didn't like Macbeth, did you?
I did not know, but then maybe I'll revisit it. But we'll see if the Safdie brothers suffer the same fate this year in a few months when we see them separated.
We should see the Russos separate and see who's got the juice,
Everyone likes Anthony just by the fact that he never talks. So everyone's like, he must be cool. Like, I bet this guy's cool.
People they did like a top 4, and I can't remember what the difference he gave, like real films, quote unquote. And everyone's like, yeah, maybe we should see like Anthony just go off and do like a film and see if he's got that shit. So
maybe he's secretly annoyed at his brother, and he just knows like just by not talking, people like him more. Because he's like, I feel like I've never heard him speak, but
he is like, I know him as the less annoying of the two, but I've nothing about him. I just know that the other one's really annoying.
Yeah,
that's kind of it,
But yeah, I'm excited for Materialist, Celine Song, but also like, how long can Justin Krinsky's and Celine Song rehash the throuple movie? Like, Challengers, Past Lives, Materialist, another one. Like, clearly, like they're like, we just need a documentary about their relationship and figure out who this like third person is that every movie that both of them write together, because obviously they're married, is like they're always talking about the 3 people in a relationship. And even Queer for a bit of it, which was written by Justin Krinsky's, also is like, it's based on a book, but still has similar of like, his relationship, but one's always kind of like longing for someone else or like trying to. And it's like, they how long are they going to keep rehashing this 3 people in a romance? But as long as they're good, and the thing is, like, Past Lives, Materialists, Challengers, Queer, 4 films that are all like completely different, stylistically completely different. Like, you could be in a totally different mood for each of those 4 and throw them on. Obviously, I haven't seen Materialists, but you can gather from the trailer. So, while it's similar, like, all kind of going down their throuple ideas, it's like, they're different enough for sure. So so we have Ballerina on June 6th. A week later, we're getting Materialist. And a week later, we're getting Elio, the latest Pixar film being released. The new trailer for that was released. I really love Luca. Seth, I know you do too. So, and this looks familiar in flavor of like the animation. And it just seems like I'm going to be hopefully getting that vibe once again, just because Pixar has always been hit or miss, but they've been more miss than hit lately for me.
Yeah, to be fair, if you look down, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I look down Pixar as a whole, their hit rate's really fucking high if we're talking all together.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm just bored of it. You know, like I watched Inside Out 2, and I was like, yeah. I watched what was the one that came out the year before?
Lightyear.
No, I didn't like Lightyear at all. But what was the other one that came after that?
Turning Red.
No, that was the year before. The Elemental. Watched Elemental. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing as kind of what I expect from the original films. And now they're at the point where they're like, I think they announced like they're doing a Coco 2, they're doing Incredibles 3, they're doing Toy Story 5. I'm just kind of bored, you know? So I don't know. Yeah. Jack, what were your thoughts on the recent? Did you watch any of the recent Pixar films? Any like the other releases?
I can't remember if Wild Robot was DreamWorks.
That's DreamWorks, isn't it?
No, I haven't really. I mean, I don't really follow Pixar. It's not something I watched when I was younger, so I don't really. Again, not being too into like animation, I just not really anything that kind of interests me.
I think it'll take a lot for me now to be excited for a Pixar film. But I almost think, and not to be patronizing, that does kind of come with age as well. Like just generally, like I think Pixar, although I think a lot of the earlier stuff was actually, although dedicated towards children, I actually think it's very adult. Like The Incredibles, for example, I think it's a perfect example of that. But it's going to take a lot for me to be excited for a new Pixar release now. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the kind of at that point in my life anymore compared to like a Miyazaki, which I will be excited for when a new Ghibli releases. I just think they're different, you know? I don't know. But yeah, looks whatever.
Yeah, I would say I'm excited hope it does well, because it's an original animated film, but like at this point, I think Pixar's too far gone anyways. They already announced like 1 billion sequels, so I don't even know if the success or lack of success of this movie will change anything with their future plans. But then a week after this, we get Happy Gilmore 2 releasing on Netflix. So what is it, like probably 30 years after the first one? Because it's like really mid-90s. Hard. Yeah, it's Adam Sandler going back in his bag for.
That's my favorite Sandler, you know.
Happy Gilmore. It's a great movie.
That's my favorite Sandler comedy ever. I love. Well, outside probably like Punch Drunk Love, but do we count that? No, not really.
I don't count that as like a Sandler comedy. No,
it's like rom-com almost. But I think that Happy Gilmore was like, I think it was peak Adam Sandler in like the 90s. I think I still watch it now. And I think it's really, really funny. I think everything works, and I think it's the perfect amalgamation of Sandler and co and cast and stuff. But this new one, Sandler leads Slop Streets as well as Kevin Hart. Sandler's got a few uncut gems in there, and Hustle was okay. But apart from that, like Murder Mystery 1 and 2, like Sandler's leading the Slop Streets as well with Kevin Hart, because I think this looks really bad. I think this looks like bad. I'll watch it because it's Happy Gilmore, but I do not hold out much hope, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm excited for it because I don't know actually if the original. So because obviously I didn't really follow golf in the 90s, so I didn't really know if like the golfers in the movie were like real or not. Like the other ones, obviously not Shooter McGavin, but the other ones. Whereas looking at the cast for Happy Gilmore 2, like I follow golf a lot now and I love watching it. And like there's like 10 golfers in here that are like very popular golfers that like I know and like watch. So it's like that'll be interesting from that aspect. That's like it's like kind of can point at the screen and be like, oh, I know all you people.
I know Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, Rory McIlroy. Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, Will Zalatoris, Justin Thomas.
So he's just doing like what he did with Hustle, but with
which shout out Adam Sandler. Like that's the way to do it if you're like just wealthy and like have generational wealth and like famous. Like it's just like just be like, oh, like you want to just make a movie with NBA players? Cool. Now he's like, oh, let's do some PGA players. Let's get some golfers. But yeah, then the rest of the cast is wild. You have Bad Bunny, you have Margaret Qualley. Like, what are you doing in here?
Travis Kelce, I just saw as well.
Yeah, Benny Safdie, Nick Swartz, and
I will say the same writer as the first Happy Gilmore, which doesn't really mean much, but at least he's there because
that's at least something. Kyle Newacek is directing. He's directed 2 films total, Murder Mystery being one, which actually like that's one that I usually whenever I try and bring up, I don't like it. I give it a 1 star to preface, but whenever I bring it up, it's like. I don't know. Whenever I bring it up as Netflix slop, a lot of people get like disappointed because they say it's actually not that bad. You give it 2, and like all my mutuals do too. So I think a lot of people like it more than most. And then he also did Game Over Man, which is another movie I watched in college, inebriated, because it's like the people from Workaholics. It's like a Workaholics movie, which is a show with Adam Devine, Blake Anderson, Anders Holm. I used to watch. But yeah, Happy Gilmore 2. I don't know, but we'll see. The slot verse continues. And then a week after that, we get Together, which is a new body horror movie from Alison Brie and Dave Franco, which has been making the festival rounds. I believe it was at Sundance. I know it was at South by Southwest. It's going to be in theaters August 1st. I'm really excited for this. I've heard a lot of great reactions from it. Alison Brie and Dave Franco are kind of, we'll see if this starts to, I mean, they're obviously a married couple, but if they start working together a whole lot more in the future, that'd be cool. But this new body horror, I feel like body horror is kind of having a new wave coming, with like Love Lies Bleeding last year. With, well, obviously Crimes of the Future, but that's not new wave. That's just Cronenberg doing his thing. But I'm trying to think, I feel like we've gotten like more body horror in the last couple of years than like The Substance, obviously. Yeah, but I'm excited for this. I don't know if either of you two caught the trailer for the new Alison Brie, Dave Franco movie.
It looks pretty good. I'm pretty interested by this because I know the House of Cinema guys. I think they watched it. One of them. And I think both of them. I don't know if Sydney saw it, but the other two really, really liked it. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I do like Dave Franco as well. I don't know why, I just quite like him, and I think that it looks conceptually interesting, which is one thing I look out for. I don't know who directed it. Look, Michael Shanks, who has done nothing. So,
debut?
Yeah, feature debut. Yeah,
wow.
Which almost excites me more at certain points because, it's complete new flavor, so to speak. Let me see this. Jack, did you watch this trailer?
Yeah, I had a look at it. I think it's interesting that it doesn't give you much. Like, it doesn't feel like it needs to market itself too much. I think that's quite exciting. And I feel like Neon as a studio, and I think Neon as a studio are getting a bit more recognition as a stylistic, like the way A24 are seen. It seems like they're kind of getting a bit more of that recognition, at least in the mainstream.
Neon. The only thing I wish they'd stop doing is marketing every film as like the scariest film ever. They just do it all the fucking time. It's really annoying. But I think as a distribution company, they are very good at marketing their films. I feel like in ways in which will bring in audiences, like they did with Long Legs. What was the other new Tyler? What was the other big Neon release recently? Or was there one coming up? Oh, was that Neon?
Yeah.
No, horror release.
Oh, horror.
It might have been the Monkey, actually, that I'm thinking about, but I don't think the Monkey did.
The Monkey is Neon, yeah. But so was Long Legs.
Long Legs was huge for Neon.
Cuckoo, Immaculate.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of Long Legs was massive though for Neon in the way that they marketed it. I think they're very good at that, but I just wish they'd stop calling every film. I feel like they market well, but they market incorrectly, which is my issue. But yeah, no, I think this looks pretty good and I'm excited for it for sure. Definitely.
Yep. Yeah, this Michael Shanks guy, he's composed before, he's done visual effects, he's written, he's edited, so now he's kind of stepping into directing. So we'll see what he's got. Nothing he's done for any of those has been anything of note or anything, but still he's clearly pretty well versed in making movies. So now we'll see what he's got directing. But okay, then the biggest one, but not coming out till September 26th after Warner Bros. Kind of moved around a bunch of release dates is we got the first teaser for Paul Thomas Anderson's new film, One Battle After Another, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and a whole ensemble cast. I was happy to see this teaser just because it's proves the movie's real. That was the big thing. It's
yeah, that's true.
We didn't know
the title.
And we got the title. It was the battle of Bat Can Cross at first. Now it's One Battle After Another. But we never. Yeah, everyone was like, this movie should be coming out this year, but no one really knows.
How's anything?
But we finally got
a Mickey 17 or a whale or a Killers of
Image. Yeah, we got nothing.
We had nothing to work with.
Nothing. But it's finally coming out September 26th. The new PTA. Last one he released was Licorice Pizza, which is a very divisive one. I do not doubt this one will probably be divisive as well. But we really didn't get a whole lot. It's just a teaser. It was a teaser for a trailer, which I think the official trailer probably comes out this week. But we already got a ton of Twitter discourse about it. I saw a lot of people saying it looks really ugly. But PTA, I have no reason to doubt PTA.
When has PTA made a film that looks ugly? Ever?
I know. That's
his thing, man. It's also people on Twitter, right? Listen.
People of Twitter, listen up.
It's like a 30-second teaser. With shots with zero context, with nothing to go off. People just love to complain about this. Is Paul Thomas Anderson, right? This is the fucking man.
But it looks like an episode of Barry, according to people on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw an episode of someone tweet on Twitter. They said this is like I think it's his first non-period piece since 2002, which was Punctual Love, which is really, really interesting. His first one since then, first set in the modern day, which is really. And it looks. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have read about the film. It sounds insane. Like, and this is PTA's biggest budget. I think it was 140 million he got for this, which is his biggest budget ever by far. I think.
Yes.
And he's never had a film gross over 100 million. This is essentially like a check for, because PTA, like, you know, if you went in the film space, he is quite niche in terms of films. Like, none of his films have been huge commercial successes in the way that we would have hoped.
Mm-hmm.
I think this film will flop badly, right? Because of its context and because of how much money they put into it. But I am so excited for this. This is PTA working with 140 mil budget. Let me get the cast list up, actually. Tyler, have you got the cast list in front of you so you can do it?
Yes. So Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Tiana Taylor, Alana Haim, Wood Harris. No one else I really recognize. Still very top heavy of some incredible actors.
Really great. Chad, did you watch the teaser, should I say?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I kind of trust anything he does, really. I wasn't a big fan of Licorice Pizza, so I was in that side of things. But I still trust him. I heard somewhere that he rewrote Killers of the Flower Moon, or he was responsible for a lot of the script.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Which is quite interesting. So I think, like, judging just off of that, he's still got his eye on the ball. And I just think with a director like him, give him the budget, let him make the weirdest thing he wants. If people online are saying that it looks kind of strange or ugly, to me, that's a good thing, because he's doing something that maybe people aren't really able to understand and they want to understand it. I think.
I don't know if
like you said, it might not gross, but.
Have you two seen Inherent Vice?
I haven't seen that yet. No. That's one of the
ones.
That
one I would argue is probably like his least coherent and very, very odd. And I imagine it'll be something similar. But like, you know, like you said, Jack, Licorice Pizza for me as well is my least favorite. I still like it. Like, I think I get like 3.5, but that's my least favorite PTA, and it's a 3.5. But that's how much. I think it's my only PTA that low as well. That's how much kind of faith I have in him. I think that with him getting the biggest budget he ever has as well, and the approach they're using in terms of the cameras they're using also, it looks like all the signs with the cast as well. Obviously, Tyler's mentioned all the signs lead to this being easily at this point my most anticipated film of the year, like without question. There's nothing. I can't even think of anything that comes close to it. Especially obviously now we've watched Mickey 17 and stuff. So I am very, very, very fucking excited. Very excited for sure.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. It's shot by cinematographer is Michael Bauman, but also Paul Thomas Anderson is an associate cinematographer. But the only film he shot only credited cinematography credit he has is Licorice Pizza, which I think looks fine. I don't think it's his best looking film, but I don't think it's the ugliness level that a lot of people are saying it is. But yeah, so he's a lighting guy for a long time for a lot of movies, and now he's cinematographer. So Licorice Pizza is first, and now this is second. And
Johnny Greenwood is returning to compose again, who obviously did everything post. I think it was There Will Be Blood was his first one. Then did like The Master, Inherent Vice,
Phantom Thread as well.
Phantom Thread's got one of the fucking best scores ever, I would argue.
Yeah,
like he is like. I mean, obviously I love Johnny Greenwood, as a musician, whatever. But all the stars are aligning for me, and this being like amazing, in my opinion, anyway. And I think, the only worry is that the proverbial direct to jail, because of how much budget he's had on this, and I don't think it will do very well commercially. That's kind of the only worry, kind of like for you, Tyler. This might be like a Damien Chazelle Babylon-esque moment, where like film Twitter loves it and most of us really enjoy it, but it didn't make a lot of money. And might hold him back, although it seemingly hasn't for Damien Chazelle. But yeah, that's the only worry. But I do think, I'm really excited for sure. Really excited.
Yeah, cannot wait. And I'm sure we'll get more from the little trailer this week. And then we also got finally the first trailer for Harmony Korine's new film, Baby Invasion, which is also released, I believe, is on VOD that you can watch now if you want. The film is set in a multiplayer FPS game, which follows a group of mercenaries using baby faces as avatars through the use of AI. I just wanted to talk about, like, do either of you, like, what Harmony Korine movies have you two seen, if
I've
any?
seen a few.
And what are your thoughts on him as a whole?
I think he's a fucking weirdo, and that's not necessarily derogatory, but it is kind of, but it isn't. It's like, man, so I've seen Gummo, which is fine. I've seen Spring Breakers, which I do actually like. I think Spring Breakers is cool. I've seen Trash Humpers, which is one of the weirdest films I've ever seen, but it's also fine and actually makes sense. I've seen a couple of his written works as well, but that's kind of all I've seen. I didn't watch Aggro Drift from last year, which I know you hated, and I know a lot of people hated as well. The conversation around AI, he's just... Jack, did you watch this trailer?
I did. I've seen it somewhere. I'm just trying to remember. Did he do Julian Donkey Boy? Dogma film. I'll have a look now.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I haven't seen it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
late 90s.
That's the only one of his I've seen when I was looking through, like, the Dogma 95 stuff, and that was really weird. But it was fun seeing Werner Herzog acting. So I did quite like that film.
I need to watch that, actually. I haven't seen it. That's got good reviews from my mutual. I need to watch that. I think Harmony Korine's... I mean, he sets out to provoke. That is his whole essence of filmography, in what way or another. But this one, man, he is like, I don't know what the fuck is going on anymore. Tyler, what were your thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah, I have to see more Harmony Korine. I've only seen Spring Breakers, which I really liked, but it's probably his most accessible film. And then Aggro Drift, I hated, but I don't know, everything about him. Like, he's like like the chosen one of, like, people really into film to, like, fully back this guy no matter what, and, like, kind of, like, bend rules that they would, like, crucify others for to, like, support him. Like, it's like you can't really talk bad about Harmony Korine, or you'll get, like, completely shit on by, like, people who, like, are very into film, I guess you could say. But to me, I don't know. The more I, like, think about this guy, he obviously is weird, but maybe it is a little derogatory for me. I just think he's kind of, like, I don't know. I don't really get what he's going for. Well, maybe I'll be enlightened one day, but
I think the reason people like him, and I don't necessarily, but I think especially with the use of, like, AI and obviously the context of it, is that he kind of uses it, and not even just in the AI sense, but everything thematically. He does everything at such a force, where he's, like, not hiding anything almost, and it's so provocative to that extent, where it's not, like, you know, a meandering approach, and that's why people will like him. And it's not a lot to say in his films, but I've seen 3 films, and still I'm very much like, jury's out. He's just a very, very odd person. I do want to watch Aggro Drift for this, like, I don't know why, but I do kind of want to watch it. But then also it's like, what am I actually getting from it at this stage? Do you know what I mean? Very, very confusing filmmaker. I admittedly am not the right person to ask, because I've already seen 3 of his films. Like, Jack, you've seen 1. Tyler, you've seen 1. Like, we're not. I'm sorry, you've seen 2. Yeah.
I think I'd be more into his earlier stuff, but I think his newer stuff is leaning to, well, just with the aggregate of what I've seen of the trailer Baby Invasion, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like lost the plot to me. I feel like he's like provocation for provocation's sake, where, like, he clearly wants a strong, provocative message that's people are going to talk about, but, like, Aggro Drift, it's like an hour and a half long of, like, the same shit over and over and over. And Baby Invasion looks probably very similar, where it's like you're going to watch 10 minutes of it, and then when the whole hour and a half's done, you're like, yep, I got exactly what I would needed on that first 5 minutes. And it's like, it seemed like some of his older stuff, like Gummo and Trash Humpers, like, just seem more interesting to me.
Trash Humpers is really weird and really funny. Gummo's,
I mean, the synopsis really sounds bizarre.
Look at Gummo and then look at the banner for it.
Yeah, just
Gummo is actually really, honestly, quite sad, honestly, and devastating, but it's really, really odd. It's really odd. I would recommend watching both, because I think there's actually some really, really good commentary in both of them. But I think I do attest, like, I do agree to a certain extent that he has always been a provocateur at the highest form, but it's like, how far are you going to push it before it's just like, whatever, you know, it just becomes meaningless at that point.
Yeah, like, you want people to talk about it, but it gets to a point, if it's too weird, people just shove it off and just don't even think about it.
Yeah,
which kind of defeats the point.
It's like Jack. I'd say, like, someone who is like a master of that essence is like Lars, for example.
Yeah,
definitely. In that, you know, you'll get myself, who, for the most part, I really like Lars, but there's certain films of his I hated. Like, I didn't like Antichrist, I didn't like Nymphomaniac Part 2, but I understand them. I understand he's coming from. Like, Harmony Korine pushes it to a point sometimes, and I'm like, okay, that was whatever. I just don't really understand the point. The trailer just looks fucking crazy. I know it's got quite a reaction on Twitter as expected because he really pushes the boat out. But I don't know if I'll watch it. I do want to watch Astro Aggro Drift, but it's like what I've seen the reactions. It's like I know it's like an anti-film, and it's like that's the whole point of it, and it's a provocation. But it's like what am I going to get out of it at this point? So yeah, very very odd guy, but interesting in a way. His films are just kind of vastly different, but almost quite similar, and all really weird as well. So yeah.
That does it for trailers. Then we have some movie news. So Conan O'Brien's returning to host the Oscars in 2026, which are taking place on March 15th. Think we're all, or I guess I don't know about Jack, but we liked Conan O'Brien. We thought he did a great job. I think people on Twitter thought he was like the next coming of like Jesus Christ with how great his performance was. I wasn't there for him. I thought he was good, but some people obviously thought he was
for the what?
Well, he is like hosting the Oscars. People thought like. So many people thought for Conan O'Brien was like the greatest thing ever. But I thought he was good. He was fine.
I thought he was good. Like, but I do wish they'd stop doing the runtime jokes. I can't do it anymore. Yeah. Every year there's one.
Well, do we have any notable big runtimes? Avatar, yeah.
I'll be like 3.5 hours, won't it? That'll be the one this year.
Yeah.
But I thought he was good. I'd happily see him again rather than. Who was it who did 2 years ago? Was it Jimmy Fallon? No.
Jimmy Kimmel, but Jimmy Kimmel did it for a few years in a row, which he was always like he was always just kind of like a passing grade, never great, but never the worst thing
ever. Never like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, he was just kind of like a steady course, but Conan O'Brien took it up a notch for sure. Saw 11 has reportedly been canceled, which bums me out, even though I feel like Saw 10 was a good way to end the franchise. It's like, while it was a good way to end the franchise, it also at the same time was like to me, it was like, oh, we might be back. Like it was like
a rehydration of the franchise.
Yeah, I loved Saw 10. I had a great theater experience with it in the sense that like it made me literally ill. But I loved Saw 10. I thought the backstory was great. Like they actually cared about the narrative beyond just like the kills. Really liked everything about it. I think maybe the end was a little sloppy, but ultimately I really love Saw 10 when really other than Saw 1, most of it are just kind of garbage. So yeah, kind of a bummer because
6 is good.
They kind of left off for some exciting stuff. So I don't know, Jack, do you watch the Saw movies?
So I watched the first one about 1.5 years ago with my friend for the first time, and I kind of had this vision that all of them were slop. And then me and my friend just kind of looked at each other at the end. We were like, this was like really good. I think I gave it 4.5, and then we went straight onto the second one, and then we were like, okay, it's already just.
Yeah,
it's motion.
It's tough,
and I haven't seen
10 of them as well. I think I've only given 1 I give like a 4. That's great. 6 is like a 3, and then 10 I give like a 3 or 3.5. Can't remember which. So there's only like you have to go through 10 films, and I think only 3 are like actually decent or good.
Yeah.
But I do think the way that 10, not only how I felt about it when I did think it was okay, or Tyler did, we really liked it. I think general audience there was a buzz about it in the way that it was kind of the way that it was done. So it is a shame to see that essentially might be the end until it gets bought and is revamped in another way, which will probably happen. Yeah, it is a bit of a shame because I think the last one did kind of breathe new life into it, I would say, definitely.
Yeah, and then we got Colin Farrell is in talks to star as Sergeant Rock and Luca Guadagnino's Sergeant Rock movie for DC. So we saw initially it was Daniel Craig, dropped out, and then it was reportedly Jeremy Allen White. That really went nowhere. And now Colin Farrell is like in talks. So
I don't know what to believe anymore. It's still hard to believe that Luca Guadagnino is doing a DC film.
Right, but I mean, he had that sign of life post where it was like a picture of him in the DC shirt where they're like, "This is real." So,
I love Colin Farrell. I love Colin Farrell. I think he's amazing. But I don't know. I mean, we're like not the right people. None of us here are like big Sergeant Rock guys. If that's the thing, I have no idea who he is. I did search him, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But I'm more excited by the prospects of Colin Farrell potentially work with Luke Guadagnino. That's like the exciting thing here, you know. But I don't know. It's so weird. I don't know what's real and what isn't with this anymore. That's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty quick back-to-back dual DC roles for Colin Farrell. He obviously just being the Penguin and like the DC Outworlds or other universe, whatever they called it. But Yeah, he probably loves the DC paychecks, but he's like, oh, I can do it without getting caked in like 10 hours worth of makeup every day. Like, sign me up if this is a real thing. But Daniel Craig and Luca Guadagnino working together would be an awesome. I wouldn't say I'm more or less excited for Colin Farrell than Daniel Craig would be, but more excited than I would be for Jeremy Allen White. Even though I like Jeremy Allen White, but Colin Farrell and Luca in like a film like this just sounds awesome. It'll be like a war film that's also like comic book inspired. Like it seems like it'll be seems like it could be good. So
I trust Luca to do anything at this point, to be honest. I know you're like extremely high on him. Jack, how high are you on Luca? Actually, I don't know if I spoke to you about him. I know you didn't like Bones and all. I know that wasn't you. Aren't you fans of that? But
yeah, I haven't really watched, to be honest, much of his stuff, so I haven't really got much of an opinion. I mean, whenever a director goes to like a franchise thing, like a superhero thing, they either do something really, really great with it, or it's just restricted in a way that doesn't even show the directors.
I don't know if Luca would get involved in something if he didn't have something in writing regarding his freedom. He just doesn't seem, who do I don't fucking go for dinner with him every day, but he just seems like the sort of one who'd want like that kind of creative control, visually especially. So and bringing people in who bro, imagine we get Mukti Tyler fucking being the DP for a DC film. That'd be crazy. But I can just imagine him doing that and like bringing people over, wanting that freedom. But it's like, how much could he really get? I just couldn't see him going into stuff as like a, just purely a hired hand. I don't think he would.
Yeah.
I hope anyway.
And we just don't know enough about Sergeant Rock. But to me, from my very minimal understanding of comic books and DC, I wouldn't think this is like a staple mainstay of like the Justice League or DC universe are creating. So it seems like an easy spot to like bring in an auteur, have him have his way. And it's not like Colin Farrell or Sergeant Rock's going to be in like 17 movies going forward.
Yeah, it can be a separate entity kind of thing for sure.
But yeah, it should be fun. The most likely outcome, it'll probably be like a Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness situation where people who, appreciate the director as a vision are like, this rules. Like, we got some style in this franchise for once, but like the fans of the franchise will probably be like, this one's weird. This kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, I'm not really on either side. I think I gave it like a 3. I'm like in the middle of the road for
Multiverse of Madness as well. Yeah.
But a lot of visual style. That was nothing that I'd take away from it. But it's like, but that's why I think this will work better, because Sam Raimi was brought in like phase 4 and that's a multiversal movie, bringing in like Fantastic Four and like all these other things, where it's like, this seems like it could be just a grounded story for Luca. So I think it'll work well. I have this bit in here just to give Seth you a chance to talk about Invincible quickly, because we reviewed it at length. Well, not we. Other Real Talkers reviewed it last week for 3 hours. But the Invincible season 3 finale is tied, or it's in the top 22 highest rated episodes of TV ever on IMDb at a 9.9 out of 10. So I put this in here really just to ask you, Seth, because I know you obviously finished it and you became a quick Invincible fan. Do you consider the finale and like the season you just watched like up there in your Hall of Fame with like other great episodes of television, or where do you land on it? Because I think you really loved it, right?
Yeah, it's difficult because I think season 3 was great. I think the finale was amazing and I loved it, and it filled me with joy. And I think it's a really amazing conclusion as well to the 3rd season without giving too much away. Is it in my Game of Thrones, Watchers on the Wall, The Mountain of the Viper, or whatever the season 4 finale was called? No. Or Reigns of Castamere, or Dexter season 4 finale, or Ozymandias? No, it's not nearly that high. But I do think it's like, as far as modern day contemporary TV goes, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's amazing. I actually think that, I don't know if they spoke about this, but I think that the season 1 finale for me was actually better, which I think has like a 9.7 or something anyway, so it's still like very high. But to answer your question, it's not in that margin. It's not there, but it's not like a crazy amount below. It's still like amazing. I still really enjoyed it for sure. It also doesn't. It's surprised me to see the reaction it's getting, because it's very like emotionally. It's like a big like release. Do you know what I mean, in terms of what happens without giving too much away. So, and I think when you look at, I know Tyler, you did a video on it. When you look at the episodes that are like 10s or 9.9s on IMDb, it's full of like those conclusive moments of like, a massive emotional release, like a huge fight sequence or whatever. So it makes sense, but it's not in like that higher tier for me. But I still think it's amazing. I'm not taking anything away from it for sure.
Yeah, I would ask you, Jack, if you watch Invincible based on your takes on animation. I think you're in the same boat as me that you have not watched Invincible. Is that correct?
No.
Do you know what Invincible is, Jack?
Not at all. All I was confused by is the fact that it looks like a superhero thing, but it's not DC or Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know.
It's superhero. It's based on a character called Invincible and Omni-Man, and it's essentially like somewhat satirical approach on the superhero classic tropes while also
like introducing.
Yes, but from what I know about The Boys, a lot less satirical. It's not as over the top. It actually is kind of earnest and a lot of, it's really, really endearing with these characters. Very visceral, very brutal as well. Like I'm not one for. I like superhero films, don't get me wrong, but I'm not one for an animated superhero show. I'd be like, if someone asked me to watch it, I'd never heard of it. Like, well, how the fuck would I enjoy that? But I really, really liked it. That's coming from me. So I do think it's. My worry was that it was going to be like what I've heard The Boys is. It's like really satirical to the point where it's like over the top and just gets a bit boring after a while. It's not that. Like I actually really enjoyed it. It's interesting. Really, really good. Really, really good. I really liked it.
Last two bits of news are, more just quickly reading them off. Not really too much to discuss here, but Looney Tunes was removed from Max as a part of Warner Brothers' plan to prioritize adult and family programming. Children's programming like Looney Tunes and Sesame Street is reportedly no longer a priority due to low views. Interesting, because obviously at first it was like early in the week it said Looney Tunes, their entire library is removed. And then later it came out like the reason they did that is because they're like getting away from children's programming, which Looney Tunes is like iconic. So like losing that's kind of crazy, but like to me, like Sesame Street seems like the craziest of crazy ones. Like I feel like if they remove that, that's like wild. I feel like that's like such a staple in like so many generations of people growing up, which Looney Tunes is as well. But I don't know, for some reason, Sesame Street just seems to me like just a different ball game. And
yeah, Sesame
weird
Street.
that they're kind of I mean,
people have been growing up with Sesame Street for like, I know it's the same with Looney Tunes, but like, I think Sesame Street came out in what, 60s or 70s?
Yeah, and it's such a staple, but I don't know. I guess like I can kind of see like it's like again, I'm not a parent, but I feel like if you're a parent, you're like trying to turn on something for your kid. Like Max isn't probably the first streaming service you're thinking of mentally to turn on. So like I can kind of see that from that idea. Like I feel like I'd go on like I know Netflix because like I know my nephews have like their own Netflix. Like you have like different users within the same Netflix account, but like when you go into theirs, it's like only like a Netflix for kids section. So like they have it really easily broken down to like once you go into that, it's like all that's there is like Bluey and like all the kid stuff, and you can't even like
Cam likes Bluey.
Yeah, Cam's a guy. Yeah, true.
Top 2 of the year from last year.
But yeah, I think and then like Disney Plus obviously would probably be where you go, which I know is merged with like Hulu and stuff now, but also like you can still also have it separated pretty easily. So I guess I can see like, but still like what's going to happen to those IPs? They're going to sell it off or something. But I saw that Acme versus Coyote or whatever is trying to get sold, which hopefully that movie ends up being good.
Like who was trying to buy it? The Mr. Ketchup.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck is that? But
yeah, I don't know.
Mr. Ketchup, whoever you are.
Yeah, they got money, I guess.
Yeah, they got a lot of money.
And then Village Roadshow has filed for bankruptcy after fallout from a financial dispute with Warner Brothers over The Matrix Resurrections. And they're the production company behind The Matrix, Joker, the Lego Movie, Zoolander, I Am Legend, Mad Max Fury Road, and Happy Feet. So very acclaimed production company. And not only that, like a lot of movies they produce, like Joker, well, until Deadpool and Wolverine, highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. Lego Movie, very well successful as well. These are all like big money makers. So to see a studio like this go bankrupt, I haven't seen The Matrix Resurrections. I haven't seen like any of the Matrixes in forever. But I don't really know how the financial dispute happens there.
One?
Is that the new one? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I've seen. I haven't seen it weirdly. I don't know why, but I love the first one. I really like the second two, the 2 and 3 as well. So I need to watch it. Doesn't surprise me too much. Oh, by the way, Tyler, I was going to mention this. One bit of news I don't think you put down, just really, really cool. We got it yesterday. John Carpenter has agreed to compose the score for Bong Joon-ho's next film.
Which is that came out after I did the rundown. Yeah, that's crazy news. That's awesome. So like cool, because obviously his movie's been a flop, but we mentioned when Mickey 17 came out that his like next movie is going to be like he said it's going to be like his most personal, his like the life story. He feels like he was made to create. So like that obviously is enough to get you excited. But then getting John Carpenter to score it, like talk about two goats.
One of the musical goats directs him, but also composing as well. That's exciting as fuck, man. It's great.
Huge. Yeah, that's all for news and trailers. Adolescence review. We're at the 2 hour. I feel like our bread and butter lately has been like 2 hours 20 is like the staple of exactly where we land on episodes.
Yeah,
which is like also kind of like the bread and butter for like just like kind of like a go to movie link. So we kind of got that down.
That's Bong Joon-ho's bread and butter, as we spoke about on our episode.
Yep, yeah, it's exactly the same length as Mix 17. But yeah, shout out to our executive producers, Stefan Johnson and Cody Whitney, for making this show happen every week. So Jack, thank you for joining as a guest and talking Adolescence. Glad to have you on. I know Seth has been bringing your name up as a potential guest for a while now, so I'm glad we were able to finally make it happen. And you're a great fit in to talk Adolescence and be a new voice on the pod, because we've never had you as a guest. So let us know, where should people go and find you if they want to see more of you?
TikTok and Instagram. So just if you put in my name, Jack Knightley, you can find my main account and also my film account as well. Same on Instagram. So that's just my name across basically most platforms. Same on Letterboxd as well. So
yeah, you crushed on TikTok. You make some funny ass skits. I was watching, scrolling through some of them last night. The one, like uncomfortable to watch in like a good way.
Yeah,
like the one with milk. The milk one. I was like, that was sending me.
Yeah,
but no, you make funny stuff. So yeah, definitely go check out Jack. All his links are gonna be in the description down below. What is next for us on Thursday? Seth and I are gonna be playing a little Cine to Nerdle. Which, Seth, have you ever played that?
I played it once in the car with Eki Reviews, because he loves it. And
I've never, so we're going to learn together and play that for the real quick on Thursday. That was recommended by our patrons and it won the poll. And then Friday, we are going to be reviewing The Silence of the Lambs. Next week's episode, Severance Season 2 review. So Seth, watch Severance this week, so you're ready for it.
I will try my best. I'll get through
it's 19 episodes total. I'll get caught up on, and they're all like 40 minutes. Like there's a couple that are an hour, but they're all mostly 40 minutes. So it's doable for sure. And Jack, we have your cosign, right? Like you think it's worth him starting and watching Severance, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. So I highly recommend Seth, you dive into it so you can join, and we'll see if Cam's there, but obviously George will be there to talk it. Then the movie's released next week. We have A Working Man. So the growing world of Jason Statham continues, of just him being a blue collar worker that starts killing and beating the shit out of people. And then The Woman in the Yard, which is the latest Blumhouse horror, which looks from the trailers like it very much could be a Blumhouse horror derogatory. So hopefully it's not, but
big derogatory there, Tyler.
Yeah, they're those trailers, like basically, which will probably be the same thing in the movie to make it scary, but it's like the loudest trailer in the world. Every time like I'm in a cinema and it's like you have your normal trailers, they're pretty loud, and then that one comes on, it's like, God, we get it. Like it's scary because you have the loudest noises in the world screaming in my face. But yeah, we'll see if we review those two next week. Severance is the big one. I think everyone listening, for the most part, if you've seen Severance, would be way more interested in that than A Working Man and The Woman in the Yard. Is 2025 off to kind of a mid start? Maybe. Kind of.
Well, yeah.
There's not a lot of stuff that's exciting to talk about. Like nothing that's jazzing me up to like, yeah, I can't wait to talk about this with the boys. Can't wait.
We're talking about TV shows. We don't talk about TV shows.
True. That's the most damning thing for 2025 movies is that we've reviewed. Well, they did the Spider-Man review, the show. They did Invincible. We've done Adolescence. We're going to do Severance.
That's in the first quarter of the year as well, by the way.
Yeah, come on, release some exciting movies. We know there's so many coming out, but we're waiting, we're itching. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, Jack, once again for joining. Check out all his links down below. That is ReelTok episode 133. We will see the rest of you on Thursday. Peace.